What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Facts on the Ground. I'm Misty Winston. I'm joined by my co-host Jesse Zerwell. Today we are, I would say, welcoming back, but it's kind of not, because we tried to do an interview with Dontell a while back, but we had some technical difficulties, so it wasn't something that we could publish. But it was a great conversation, so we're going to try to have that again. He's the host of Unapologetic on YouTube, which you should definitely be checking out. So Dontell, thank you for coming back to the show, and hopefully we can get through this without any technical difficulties.
No glitching, nothing like that. I'm happy to be here. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else. It's gonna be an amazing conversation. So
yeah, last time was great, and I was really sad when we couldn't get it published. I'm really excited to have you back. He's a hard man to nail down, so it's taken some work. I told him at one point I was just going to come kidnap him. So here we go.
We did forego that. We did not have to. It did not come that far.
No, it did not
come on my own volition this time.
Go to that extreme, but don't test me, sir.
There is no man with a gun off the camera. It's all good over here.
He's outside.
Yeah, they're watching you. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you first about, I'm sure people are going to be mad that I'm bringing this up because everybody's kind of tired of hearing about it, but you just did a great video on the TYT Jimmy Dore drama bullshit. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because I think that a lot of people are missing that this isn't just drama. It's not like this personal beef or whatever, which it is. It kind of stems from that. But this is, legitimately the biggest progressive news show on the internet, smearing anti-war award-winning journalists, and then using some really just screwed up attempts to bring up supposed sexual harassment claims to then distract from that. And you just did a great video on this the other day, so we don't even have to talk about it for that long, but I feel like it would be remiss of me to not bring this up, because I feel like this is so much bigger than just like some personal beef. So what has been your take on this whole mess that's been going on over the past few weeks?
So I've been following it. Personal reasons, I haven't been recording and making that much content over the time, but I've definitely been following like everything that's been going on, and it's so bizarre to watch because, and this is a case with like these issues in new media in general, and with these different hosts in these different shows. It's been so outrageous on so many different levels that it's just hard to just nail down and articulate how egregious this all is. So the fact that you have the biggest online show in the world, and a show that claims to be on the left, allegedly progressive, and they've made a habit, this is routine now, that they're going to come out and smear and discredit anti-war journalists, anti-imperialist journalists with absolutely no evidence. And here's the thing, it's not even like they're trying to, like they have a different perspective on the issue and, they're coming at it. Honestly, I have a hard time believing that they're even doing this in good faith. This all just comes across as sleazy, bad faith smears and attacks. For what reason? I can't give you the exact reason, but it's unacceptable and it's indefensible, because they have this massive audience, 5 million subscribers on YouTube. And we could get into the amount of people who aren't watching their show. That's a whole different discussion. But they have a huge platform, and the way that they choose to use it's really disgusting. Because with the Aaron Mate thing, nobody's disputing what his claims are about the OPCW cover up. Nobody's has accurately or even attempted to refute the claims of the whistleblowers. But still, again, Cenk and Anna found the audacity to come out and just accuse him of doing propaganda for dictators and covering up the deaths of children and things like that, which is, if you follow this story, you followed Aaron's work, that's not anywhere near an accurate representation of what he's done. I give credit to him, because you all know me, I'm way more, I will put my opinion in like everything I do. But Aaron has been careful to only report, to only speak on the things that have been proven factual by the people who are most directly involved, and the top scientists who are conducting the investigation, and the former head of the OPCW. So to try to refute his claims, you have to have a mountain of evidence to refute that. But they don't present any of that. They just throw it out to the audience. Oh, he's lying. He's working on behalf of the Russians. He's working for dictators. And the thing that compels me and compels a lot of people to talk about it is because there are going to be thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who are in their audience who take what they say as gospel. And now, like I said, you have the biggest online news show putting out this pro-war, pro-regime change narrative on Syria, and they won't even entertain the counter arguments. They're just going to come out and smear anybody who doesn't agree with them, and it's disgusting. And so, with the way that this whole thing's unfolded, I get that people, especially after that blackmail attempt from Anna Kasparian, I get that people felt gross weighing in on it. But what's even worse is to allow like this pro-regime change propaganda to continue in our space. Because then that's another thing. This is supposed to be like the lefty space. It's supposed to be the anti-war space. If there was anywhere that we can be in agreement that what happened in Syria, our involvement in Syria was reprehensible, and everybody should be as outraged about it as they were about the Iraq war and the Afghanistan war and our involvement in Yemen. If there was anywhere we could come to agreement on that, it should be here in the left space, the anti-imperialist space. But they've just created this chaos on this issue and unnecessarily divided it. And so that's inexcusable, and people do need to call it out, because it's not just this one instance. Like I said, it's they've done it with Julian Assange. They have never addressed that. They've never apologized for that. They've never felt the need to add further explanation. When they come out and try to completely undermine Julian Assange's credibility and say, oh, I don't know if we could trust his journalism and his reporting, and he's biased and all that. Where do you get off saying that when he's literally the most consequential journalist of all time, of our time, and he has done more work than anyone?
And he's never gotten it wrong.
And he's never gotten it wrong. Done more work than anybody to challenge the war machine and the military-industrial complex. And then again, they come out, no evidence. In fact, they were citing this completely bullshit, made-up story about Paul Manafort meeting with Julian Assange and the embassy, no evidence, and it was bullshit on his face. Anybody who was trying to look at the situation objectively, because again, no camera, no photograph, no documentation of this meeting occurred or anything. They didn't care. They went out and said, oh, nobody should trust Julian Assange and all this shit. So it's become a pattern. It's a regular occurrence. And if everybody is especially the people who at one point or another, they were professionally linked with TYT, or they are on their network and were promoting their channel and these hosts to their audience. At some point, even if it's your friends, even if it makes you uncomfortable, at some point you have the responsibility to your audience and to people who are listening to discussions to set the record straight and to say that this isn't okay. And honestly, it's gotten to the point, and of course the latest smears of Rania Khalek, just to add on to the heat, it's gotten to the point where you just have to come out and say, if you are against the wars, if you're an anti-interventionist, if you are against the neocons in both parties, then you just shouldn't be listening to TYT. That's just what it is. I don't care if you're friends with them. I don't care if you have dinner with them last Saturday or whatever it is. Let's just be objective here. If we're going to have serious discussions in this space, if we're going to have serious discussions about war and things like that, let's be real about the sources that you can trust and the sources that you can't trust. And this whole debacle, this whole spectacle over the last month, it has made it pretty clear who are honest, good faith actors and who isn't.
Yes.
Yeah, they've become the National Enquirer of neoliberal media. And going back to Assange real quick, Cenk said something, I think it was back in 2017, 2016. Don't quote me on the year, but he said with regard to Assange and the 2016 election, I could respect him, I'm paraphrasing here, but I could respect him if he put everything out there and just leaked everything. But it seems like he's selecting the information he puts out there, which is true. He does select, he carefully selects so that he doesn't put people's lives at risk. We know this. And from that, it's so obvious, it's so bald-faced that that show and its functionaries have a vested interest in the DNC, and at that time, Hillary Clinton, who was supposed to be the anointed child for no other reason than she thinks she deserves that position. So that said, right there, over 4 years ago now, it was pretty clear that they weren't honest actors, that whatever vested interests they have, they're operating on behalf of those interests. And I really don't even see what the point of their existence as a show is anymore, other than to distract and sort of weasel their way into leftist spaces and try to keep people focused on their bullshit instead of what we should be focusing on.
And Jimmy Dore rightfully called them out when he said that right there, their smearing of Julian Assange should have had them laughed out of the left immediately. If you weren't already incredibly skeptical of TYT and their, what they were trying to do, that should have been enough for you. The fact that they were smearing Julian Assange as he's sitting in the Ecuadorian embassy, being subjected to psychological torture for doing the job of journalism, that's disgusting. And you're doing it with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. There was never any evidence to support the claims that they were making about Julian Assange, and they did it anyway. And again, this is somebody that has I was telling Jesse earlier that I have a tweet from April of last year of 2020 where I said Cenk Uygur is a danger to the left, and that is exactly what I was talking about. This is somebody who has this massive platform and has this veneer of progressivism. He's created this whole kind of facade of being of the left, and he's then pushing propaganda and imperialist bullshit, and he's smearing anti-war journalists, and to smear Julian Assange, I don't have time for those people. Obviously I don't have time for those people. It's ridiculous. And when you're supposed to be a like you consider yourself a journalist or in the media space, to do something like that with no evidence whatsoever is really disgusting. I just can't think of anything worse.
And it's like, it's how many times can they do something that is egregious and not petty, but major indiscretions? And how many times can they do it before everybody's just like, okay? And again, it's not like a cancel culture thing, but at some point, everybody has standards. If you're in this space, you're consuming left new media, you have standards. It's not, you don't think that Jimmy Dore is equal, they provide the same information as Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow is bullshit, and you make the decision, all right, I'm not watching Rachel Maddow because that's horseshit. So at some point, and it's not like, oh, everybody go cancel your TYT subscriptions because I said so, because Missy said so, or because Jimmy Dore said so. At some point, we all have to have standards. If you're going to continue say, oh, I'm against the wars and I'm going to oppose them any way I can, okay, so then why are you watching people who do pro-war propaganda? It doesn't take me to say, oh, stop watching them. It shouldn't have to take Jimmy Dore to tell you to stop watching them. We're telling you what they're doing is egregious and indefensible, and everybody should make up their own mind. Whatever the issue is for you, they've crossed that line many times over, whether it's the smears of anti-war journalists and Julian Assange. I'll put that in its own category, the smears of Julian Assange, because that man was sitting in prison. He was technically on like house arrest in the embassy and being tortured, and his life and being persecuted, life turned upside down for doing the like I said, the most consequential journalism of our time. And you are gonna come out and smear him again. That's a whole other category. And then you have the if you care about Medicare for all and doing anything you can to implement that or to force the hand of politicians to pass the legislation. Well, when they had our best opportunity to have a vote on it in our lifetime, guess who was on the wrong side of that? TYT. And the endless defense of the shitty politicians who keep failing. So at some point, whatever the issue is that you think is most important to you, TYT has crossed that line. So I don't know what anybody on the left has any business still donating to TYT or what, like, why? I mean, I watch their show. I guess it's like hate watching, like, or to like expose the bullshit that they're doing. But I don't know why anybody would watch their show like to get like any type of information. So what they're doing is gross, and it's not just this latest chapter. The whole force to vote thing was enough to ruin their reputation as well. The Julian Assange thing was enough to ruin their reputation as well. The shilling for Joe Biden and smearing anybody who was critical of falling in line for the Democratic Party again, for even worse neoliberals again, smearing those people, again, that's credibility ruining, and people should have been done with them. So, I mean, people have their personal relationships with the people at TYT, that's fine. But at some point you have a responsibility to your audience to keep it real, because it's gotten to the point where and I'm speaking about people like Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball, it's gotten to the point where and these people claim that policy is the most important thing to them. All they care about is policy. Okay, you care about the policy.
They never talk about policy.
Who are actively undermining our chance to get those policies are your friends. So either you care about the policies more than your friendships, or you care about your friendships more than the policies. But it's the whole fence sitting and pretending like, oh, it's okay to just not say anything about it. That time's up, and that's why they're getting a lot of shit for it now.
Yeah, no. And it's a pattern of behavior. You're absolutely right. I mean, this goes back a long ways, and the Jeffrey Katzenberg money certainly didn't help them. But it really is this, we're at this point now where you can't stay silent on this anymore. It's really damaging to a leftist movement, and I don't even like calling it a leftist movement, to like a people's movement. The things that they're doing, the stuff that they're putting out there, and it's like, Anna said that she's disgusted by the intentional disinformation. Are you kidding me, sis? You just pushed Russiagate for 5 fucking years. You have yet to walk that back, apologize for it. You gave this softball knob slobbing interview to Madeleine fucking Albright.
Yeah. Every word with regard to Syria that comes out of Anna Kasparian's mouth is intentional disinformation.
When she talks about it, I mean, they don't even talk about it. And then when they, get called out on their horrific non-journalism on Syria, they say that they're going to bring a Syrian expert on to discuss it. And they have this dude who, in the first 30 seconds of the interview, has to correct Anna because she claims he's based in Syria. And he's like, no, sis, I'm in Brooklyn. And then we find out that he's written a whole 4 fucking paragraphs on Syria in the OPCW report. Are you kidding? That's your expert? That's who you're coming, like, that's your big gun that you're going to come in with to rebut Aaron Matei, who's done unbelievable journalism on this. I mean, I'm embarrassed for her. Like, you should be embarrassed. And she doesn't, though, because it's the money is more important to her than anything else. And I think that
one more thing, I know you want to move on, but
no, it's fine.
That point about that whole interview, that sham interview with about 40 minutes, they have somebody come lie to their audience and do State Department talking points, pro-war, pro-regime change talking points. All right, so if they hadn't done any of the other shit that we've been talking about, that right there, it shows you not only is it like this is bad faith, and but this was intentional. It wasn't like, oh, like the first video, it was like a sly offhand comment. They produced a whole segment to lie to their audience about one of the biggest wars over the last 20 years. What the fuck is that? What is that?
I don't know. And they sought after this guy. Like, this is somebody that they went to find to rebut Aaron on Syria. And he's some schmuck who doesn't even report on Syria, 4 whole paragraphs. That's your expert. That's who you're bringing in. And then you're lying to your audience too about, his level of expertise. And then he's out there pretending like he knows more than the scientists who investigated the chemical attacks, the supposed alleged chemical attacks. I mean, and she talks about this disgusting disinformation, intentional disinformation, and it's all projection. It is legitimately all projection. And that's all she does. It's no different than her smearing Rania Kalik and saying, yeah, I've seen some of her reporting and I feel like she could do better fact checking. Sis, again, you just had some dude on who you claim to be an expert on Syria, who is not an expert on Syria. That is intentional disinformation. That is not fact checking. Or if you did fact check, then you failed miserably. It's all projection. It's all projection with them. And it's dangerous. It's disgusting. It's really damaging. Propaganda is incredibly dangerous. That's why we're in the position that we're in right now, because people don't have have the facts. You aren't working with the facts at all whatsoever. It's incredibly difficult to find any factual information whatsoever. And they're just contributing to that. I mean, it is like Rachel Maddow light. They're no better. They are absolutely no better. They are paid propagandists. They are mouthpieces for power. And I think they know it. And I think that's why you're seeing all this lashing out, because they realize how shit they are. And they're embarrassed by it. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they have no shame whatsoever. I don't think Jink does. I feel like Anna probably has a
Jink
little
looks
bit.
like he's reveling in all this. He's just like, he's taking this position that he's just going to be like this troll, and he's just going to like antagonize people to get interactions on Twitter or whatever. So he again, and it just looks like he's just doing this just to piss people off. But I mean, that's TYT for you.
It is TYT for you. But I do want to shift gears a little bit. I mean, we've already kind of talked about Assange a little bit, but recently we had the huge bombshell story come out about the key witness in the prosecution against Julian Assange, who has basically recanted his entire testimony. You did a great video on this recently. I appreciate you covering it. A lot of people are not covering it. Mainstream media hasn't touched it at all. When you first heard, about this article that came out, the interview with Siggy Thordarson, what was your first reaction to this just ridiculous implosion of this stupid ass case?
Well, first of all, when I heard it and I was like seeing the tweets about it, I didn't even think it was real, because I was like, there's no way this case is that bullshit, and it just got exposed like that. And so, but of course, I read the article and it confirmed this, and I'm like, oh wow. So they and nobody's really framing it this way. Everybody's saying, oh, the guy just lied on the indictment and they gave him immunity, whatever. Do you think that the Justice Department, they were just passively going about their day, and this guy came to them and said, hey, I could get you some shit on Julian Assange if you give me immunity for something? To me, it comes across like this whole thing was a frame job, and they intentionally sought this person out because he was saying he had these tangential he was saying he was like big up in WikiLeaks, but he was saying he had these connections to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks or whatever. So they found this person with all this dirt and shit on him, and they said, hey, if you tell us what we want to hear on Julian Assange, we'll give you immunity. That's what it really comes across to me as. Like, this was some intentional frame job type shit.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question.
So like the whole, you have somebody, the whole case built around them, and they admit, yeah, all the shit that I said wasn't true. That alone should have got the case thrown out. And it's mind-blowing that it's still going on. There have been multiple times where the case should have been thrown out off of technicalities and prosecutorial misconduct and all these different things. The case should have been thrown out. So that when I finally, like, it sank into me that, oh, this story is actually true. The key witness actually lied on the indictment, and they're still continuing with this prosecution. I was just like, some people were like, oh, this is the end of the case or whatever. For me, it was just another thing to add to the list of how they just to prove how this is just kangaroo court. Like this isn't like some legitimate trial, and this isn't like some fact-finding exercise. No, they're trying to railroad him as part of a cover-up for U.S. war crimes, and whatever they can do, throw at the wall and hope it sticks, they're just going to do it. And even if it's this, at first it was the allegations in the alleged rape allegations in Sweden or whatever, that was bullshit, that was mucked up, and they had to drop that. And then it was the bill, anything that they can possibly come up with to keep him locked up, they're gonna do it. And their last hope is this bullshit case. So it looks like they're just gonna hold on to this to dear life, no matter how many like things come up to disprove their entire argument. They're just gonna hold on to it no matter what. So it's gross. It feels like some type of movie, because you can't even, I mean, we all know how just fucked up the justice system is in the United States and how people get railroaded all the time. But to see this happen so publicly and everybody act like this is normal, everybody act like there's nothing to see here. Like you said, the media hasn't reported on this story yet. They haven't reported on the story yet. It's been over a week now, close to 2 weeks, coming up on 2 weeks, maybe like this Friday or Thursday.
And that's a big reason why this keeps going on. So they're
Mhm.
complicit in his torture.
100%, 100 fucking percent. Every journalist out there who refuses to cover this case, you are complicit in this. 100%. I don't care who you are. I've said this before. I don't care if you're a financial reporter. I don't care if you're, I don't care. I don't care what kind of journalist you are. I don't care if you're a national security reporter or not. It doesn't matter. This affects the future of your profession. And if you're not talking about this on some level, you are complicit in this. 100%. You're destroying your own job. You're destroying your own profession. And the media's complicity in this is, I've said it before that I think the mainstream media in this country is one of the biggest threats that we face, because it's not just the propaganda that they feed you, the stuff that they tell you, it's the stuff that they don't tell you too. And the fact that they're not covering again, this is a historic court case on press freedom. It's a massive story. So the fact that they're not covering it should speak volumes, because just forget the implications to their own profession or the fact that it's a fellow journalist who's being tortured to death for exposing war crimes. This is a huge story. And this thing that came out about Siggy Thorberson in the Icelandic magazine Student, this is like a legitimate bombshell. I mean, we all know Rachel Maddow loves her some bombshells, right? It is. It's hugely scandalous. It's hugely scandalous. This guy is a convicted pedophile, a convicted child molester. He's a diagnosed sociopath. He's a career criminal. He has just a laundry list of charges against him and convictions against him. In fact, he was convicted in Iceland for embezzling money from WikiLeaks, because this is a guy who he liked to say that he was like the second in charge, or he was best buds with Julian Assange. He was a low-level volunteer who worked on some fundraising stuff and then embezzled over $50,000 from WikiLeaks. This is the guy that they have as their key witness in the case against Julian Assange. And this is a scandalous story, and it's very clear. I mean, this is somebody, again, a convicted child molester, and they decided to give this guy immunity to get Julian Assange. That's disgusting. And
people, there are things like, if there was ever a time for like a special investigator or a special counsel, it would be to investigate a case like this, because at every turn, the government is breaking the law, and it looks like they're trying to not just frame an innocent person, they're trying to frame a journalist, set up a journalist, and that's supposed to be even more off limits, because of the role that journalists are supposed to play as keeping a check on government. So this whole thing should be investigated, and everybody involved in this should be investigated. The prosecutors who keep coming up with these bullshit. If they encourage somebody to lie on the indictment, that's suborning perjury, and they could be put in prison. They could be disbarred for that. So this whole thing reeks, and not to mention the initial crimes that it was meant to cover up, like the footage of the collateral murder video, things like that, crimes like that. So there's such criminality on the part of the government. And then you have the UC Global thing, and the CIA and the NSA also spying on Julian Assange, and spying in on meetings with his lawyers, violating his attorney-client privilege. There are so many things that need to be investigated on the part of the prosecutors. And again, it's wild that the media doesn't think that's newsworthy. Like the government, that's some type of shit that you think that you see in the movies or like on TV or something, like, oh, the government actually conspiring to frame somebody, an innocent person, and lock them up for the rest of it. Like, that is such an enormous thing. And the fact that it's being proven in broad daylight, beyond a shadow of a doubt, in front of everybody's eyes right now. It also, but beyond this one case, how many other times have they done this to people? How many other times have they railroaded innocent people for speaking the truth about the government, or exposing war crimes, or exposing any other crimes of the government? So the implications behind this entire case is so massive and it's so wide-reaching, and it is just bizarre. And I get that people they have their own pet issues and the things that they focus on, things like that. But it is bizarre to me that people are just trying to ignore this, because they've gone from even trying to make the case that Julian Assange should be prosecuted to just ignoring this shit, because there's not even an argument to be made anymore. So this whole thing is crazy. This whole thing is bonkers. And it's, to me, the institutions of power, they're not going to correct themselves on this. They need to be confronted on this. They're not going to drop the cases, the charges by themselves. Somebody needs to confront them on this. And that's what makes it that much more frustrating, that the so-called leaders of this movement, this people's movement, the politicians that we elected to represent us in the wheel power on our behalf, they won't speak on this issue. They have the platform to make this national, like the center of attention. If AOC and Bernie and Ilhan Omar every fucking week were coming out talking about, oh, Joe Biden's prosecuting journalists just like Trump, and he's against the freedom of the press just like Trump, if they were making this an issue that's impossible to ignore, they would shame. I have a hard time believing, because up to now, they don't want to defend this publicly. Joe Biden doesn't want to talk about this publicly. The administration doesn't want to talk about this publicly because they know what it looks like to the public. So if they were actually forced to address this publicly, and every week, every press conference, explain why they're prosecuting a journalist for doing his job, I really believe that if that pressure alone wasn't enough to get the Justice Department to be like, all right, fuck you, drop the case, then the organizing that could come from that, the protests in the streets from mass people with these large platforms organizing and mobilizing people on this issue, that too would be enough pressure to get the Justice Department to drop the case. And I don't want to minimize the efforts it takes to organize, but what it would take from these people to rock the boat on this issue, it's the bare fucking minimum.
A single tweet from AOC could garner an unbelievable amount of support for Julian Assange. She has millions of followers, people who like drop everything that she says. But here's the problem. She doesn't support Julian Assange. She's an authoritarian. She favors censorship. That's what people ask me all the time. Why do you think the squad doesn't support Julian Assange? Because they're authoritarians. They don't support Julian Assange. Bernie Sanders doesn't support Julian Assange. These people don't care about Julian Assange. They want to see him go to prison, I think. I mean, that's just me speculating, but AOC uses her email list to send her, army of people to go mass report people on Twitter who say mean things about her. She's an authoritarian.
Imagine she did that for Julian Assange. Imagine she sent out an email to her followers and his supporters like, oh, everybody go get on the street for Julian Assange. Everybody go blow up the White House Twitter account and blow up all these politicians' Twitter accounts and their phone lines and talk about Julian Assange, demand that they drop. Imagine they did, but instead, what did she do? Like you said, oh, go report people who are mean to me on Twitter.
Well, we have to look at it in the larger context too of the national security state, because that's who's really steering the ship here. Mm-hmm. And if we go back to Snowden is the one who got away, so to speak. And I have nothing but respect for Edward Snowden, but he embarrassed the national security state like they've probably never been embarrassed before, and he rightfully embarrassed them. And I remember how angry Obama was that Snowden got away, so to speak. And they're not going to let that happen a second time.
Well, and Julian helped him.
And
Julian helped him.
And now that Biden is the president and the DNC status quo is back, and the DNC is essentially the bedfellow of the national security state, these politicians, no matter how progressive they are or they make themselves out to be, they're not going to lift a finger for Assange, because the national security state will destroy or at least severely impede their careers. And they're careerists, and they care about themselves and their own welfare only. And we're seeing that with, as we just discussed, how they can't even utter a single word in defense of Julian Assange. They can't even bring themselves to say his name.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders has still to this day never said Julian Assange. Since he's been arrested, he's never said his name once.
That's inexcusable.
Yeah.
Again, that's one of those things where you can just draw a line and I don't care what explanations, I don't give a fuck what they come out and say at this point. After 2 years, after he's been dragged out of the embassy and you sat there and did nothing as he was being tortured and his rights being denied, and wasn't allowed to meet with his lawyers, wasn't allowed to get the necessary healthcare. And again, on the whole backdrop of him being a journalist, being prosecuted for journalism. 2 years go by, you're the most powerful people in the country, and you won't even say his name. You won't say a word about it. But Misty, like you said, they don't actually support Julian Assange. And that's a point that I hope everybody in new media can drill home to their audience. They don't support Julian. It's not like they're wringing their hands like, oh my God, I hope Julian Assange is okay, but I just can't say anything. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They don't support him. Their career is more important. They wouldn't put their career or do anything that they think would jeopardize their career, even if it means speaking up on one of the most important cases that's happening right now. And like Jesse said, they won't even do the bare minimum on this issue. And it's, like you said, it's because they're afraid of some repercussions to their careers. Because I have a hard time believing that if they were confronted on the merits of this case and the details of this case, how they would, I have a hard time imagining how they could make a case that Julian Assange should be have dealt with any of the shit that he's gone through over the last 7 years or 8 years. So they know this shit is wrong, but they don't want to do it because they won't do the right thing because they're more concerned about their careers. And this gets to the beef between the left and these politicians. So I get it that it's a hard thing to risk everything and to stick your neck out and put it all on the line for an important issue, even if it's just. A lot of people, whether it's because of their family, their financial situation or whatever, some people, it's hard for them to do that. But when you take and again, I'm not justifying not taking a stand when you should. Anybody should, regardless of the cause. But when you take it upon yourself to become a politician and a leader, and you want to lead this movement, well, then you need, and this is a quality that I think we should be more aware of in the future. You need to be willing. You can't have those reservations. You can't have those thoughts about your career or what's going to happen to me if I say this. That can't cross your mind at all, because when that happens, you start making those calculations like, oh, well, Julian Assange is important, but if I say anything about it, what about Medicare? Like, then you make these calculations that you don't need to make, and it makes you come off as weak, and it makes you fall in line with the status quo and the establishment. So if you're going to take this position and you're going to say, you know what, hey, everybody, donate millions of dollars to me, come donate, spend countless volunteer hours trying to get me elected and put me in a position of power. Okay, with that power comes responsibility. And with that, in that responsibility is the responsibility to do the right thing regardless of the cost. And like I said, it may be harder for regular people to do that, but you took it upon yourself to become a public figure, and not just a public figure, one of the most powerful people in the country. Well, again, I don't even want to give credence to that bullshit excuse about, oh, what about my career? They've cemented themselves in popular culture and politics for the rest of their lives. No matter what happens, no matter how controversial a take they take on any issue is, they'll be fine. So, but still, like this whole mindset, it's ridiculous, and it's inexcusable. And people, if you extrapolate that, you would always have a reason to not do the right thing. So how about we just stop entertaining that bullshit? And especially the people who've took it upon themselves to become politicians, why don't you just take the risk? And whatever happens, happens. Like all of this hand wringing and, oh, if we do this and it might not work. How about you just take the first step, and whatever happens after that, whatever consequences, whatever happens, then you just deal with it in real time and you could keep pushing your agenda. But this whole, oh, if I say the right thing, it might hurt me this way, so I'll just not do that. I think that's such bullshit.
Yes. And that's actually a really good segue for what I wanted to ask you. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, because we've seen this repeatedly from the squad and from quote unquote progressives. And they are constantly doing this justification like, oh, well, we can't do this because then we can do this. Right. So they did this very much with Force the Vote. They said, we're not going to do Force the Vote because $15 an hour is more doable. Right. That's AOC's own words. It's more doable. But then when it came time to fight for $15 an hour, they didn't even put up even almost a fight for that. And we're seeing it over and over and over again. Like I've said many times before, Force the Vote shouldn't have even been a conversation. No progressive should have ever been considering voting for Nancy Pelosi for any reason whatsoever. That shouldn't have even been on the table. The only way for me personally, if to vote for Nancy Pelosi, I would need a laundry list of things, and I would need those things done in advance before I vote for Nancy Pelosi. And that's the only way I'm voting for her. This is somebody who covered up torture. This is, somebody who's made herself a 100 millionaire from public service. This is not somebody that progressive should have ever been considering voting for. And we see this kind of stuff all the time where they justify these ridiculous positions that they're taking. And this is, people seem to forget that when the squad first came on the scene, the entire point of them was for them to challenge the Democratic establishment. That was the point. They were.
That was the only reason I was entertained with this idea to begin with, because I don't just go out and support random Democrats and say bullshit lip service. No, the problem at the time was the Democratic Party was corrupt as all hell, and the Justice Democrats came on the scene saying, "Oh, we're going to be the only people who challenge that in the political arena." Mm-hmm. That's the only reason why they got any support to begin with. But
no, but yeah, you're right. Like that was the whole point. The entire point of people forget that. Like, now we don't see the progressives challenging the Democratic establishment. They talk about how terrible Republicans are all day long. But when do they challenge Nancy Pelosi? When do they challenge Chuck Schumer? When do they challenge the Democratic establishment status quo? They don't. They don't ever. They acquiesce to it constantly. They are capitulating to the corruption within their own party on a daily basis, right in everybody like public view, and people are still making excuses for them. And it's really been kind of mind-boggling for me to watch. I get that there's this whole cult of personality, and what they do is when they come out and they're running for something and they need your vote, they say all the right things, they have the right language, they convince you, they draw you in and make you a supporter, and then you're willing to make justifications and excuses for all the shitty things that they do because you're now team AOC or you're team squad or whatever, and then it's much harder for people to break away from that and be objectively critical of these people that they like promote to hero status. And it's like this really mind-blowing thing where we're seeing like people who claim to be leftists making excuses for like legit imperialism. I mean, you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, deferring to caucus leadership on a literal coup. And so what do you think is going to break people away from this kind of hero worship that we've seen develop around the squad and around people like Bernie Sanders? And how do we get people to be more consistent? Because that's the thing that bothers me most of the time, is that I'm not perfect, but I try to be consistent in my criticism. And I try to, if I'm going to criticize somebody for one thing, I'm going to criticize somebody I don't like for something. If somebody I do like does the same thing, I need to criticize them as well. And we're completely missing that on the quote unquote left. So yeah, what do you think about all of that?
Well, let me add to that. Do you think they even can be pushed?
Right.
So that's a great question, both of you. And so, like, to the idea, what would it take to get people to like be more critical of them and challenge them? So after the CARES Act, after the damn near year of inaction in the worst emergency of our lifetime, and we have elected these politicians, and they have power. They had power. After that, and they chose not to use it on our behalf. They left us for dead, just like every other corrupt politician in this country. After that, there should have been a referendum on the left about where the fuck we're going and what's going on here and the direction of this whole movement. After the CARES Act, after the inaction, after the forced to vote, and then they voted for Nancy Pelosi. After the shitty stimulus bill, where they all folded, had leverage, could have demanded anything. Bernie Sanders wrote the goddamn stimulus bill, didn't put UBI in there, didn't put Medicare for all in there, didn't put rent, mortgage cancellation, didn't do anything about the eviction crisis and the homelessness crisis. He literally wrote the bill, and he could have wrote any of those policies in there and challenged anybody to take it out or to vote no on it. But he didn't. So after all those things, there should have been a referendum, and there should have been introspection. And people like to pretend like the discourse between ourselves and the criticizing politicians and left media figures, they act like that's what's hindering the movement, but it's the exact opposite. It's the fact that there is no autopsy. Anytime there's a major fuck up and a major failure to use leverage in a given moment, there's no like, all right, everybody, let's get together on this and figure out what we did wrong and make sure it never happens again. There is none of that. So that's why you get this it's boiled over to the point where it just seems like constant fighting, because this is something that needs to be had out. And I think the perfect referendum for all of these problems that have been going on over the last year, the perfect referendum should have been when Nina Turner decided that she was going to run for Congress, and she's going to also run in the Democratic Party. There's a whole host of criticism there, but running on the same support and the same base of support that the rest of these charlatans ran on, giving us these same promises that they gave us, and throwing up the same red flags that she might go in there and not change a goddamn thing and not rock the boat just like the rest of them did. So this campaign should have been a referendum on what's going on and whether or not this strategy is effective and this is the best use of our resources. That did not happen. That still has not happened. In fact, the exact opposite. It's been, it's as if this last year didn't happen, and it's like 2016 or 2017, and it's just like, oh my God, this amazing progressive is running for Congress. Everybody go donate to them, go vote, volunteer for them, go vote for them. As if there isn't reason for skepticism here. And the way that new media has handled this has been disgraceful. Honestly, I've been so ashamed. And when this race started, I put out a video, a lengthy, nuanced, detailed video about the criticisms I had and concerns I had, and why I wouldn't be supporting Nina Turner's campaign. And I put it out there, and I didn't want to harp on it. I just wanted it out there because I didn't see anybody talking about it at the time, and I wanted this to be a conversation had on the left. Still, everybody's basically ignored this. No, everybody's acted like, oh yeah, Nina Turner's perfect, and there's absolutely nothing to be concerned about here. And the way that the new media has covered this has just been unrelenting, uncritical pro Nina Turner propaganda. And so I've been following this. I wrote an article on Substack maybe a week ago, where I listed some of the concerns that not only aren't being voiced at all, but they're just being actively suppressed, and nobody in new media is bringing them up. Nobody's doing nobody who has interviewed her has done a critical interview or adversarial interview of her. There's been no critical segments done. And again, it's just like, okay, so after everything that we've seen these politicians do, these same politicians that she's aligned herself with, that she's considers her allies, they all took us for a ride. They all took our money, and then they went to Congress and told us to kick rocks. So why isn't there should be a pause on all support to politicians until we figure out what the hell is going on, like Donald Trump said, put a ban on Muslims coming to the country until we figure out what the hell is going on. There should be a ban on support to politicians until we figure out what the hell is going on. And the fact that hasn't happened, it's just this, it's discouraging to me, because there's even more things to be concerned about now than there were when the Justice Democrats first came on the scene. Because like I said, the CARES Act, the forced vote, the stimulus bill, all those things. And then with Nina Turner, she wasn't in Congress during all those times, but she wasn't powerless. but she also sat back and didn't really lead the charge for the people. And now she's going to come and now she's running for Congress. Oh, give me the money. But wait a minute. Where were you when the CARES Act passed? Were you fighting for us then?
Where was she on Force the Vote? Where was she when
Yeah.
I had an Assange event in Columbus recently? She didn't show up to that shit. I mean, this is somebody, y'all, she used to be on the board of Correct the Record. This is not somebody you should be blindly trusting. She's a former Hillary Clinton surrogate. She's, she has a consulting firm now that is funded in large part by a John Kasich mega donor. This is not somebody that you can trust. And I don't know why that's a controversial thing to say. People who are still putting blind trust in politicians after everything that we've seen happen. You're right. The squad has been in office, for a few years now. They haven't done shit for you. Seriously, I keep asking, somebody tell me, somebody show me something that they've done to help people. One thing.
Well, they're holding hearings into the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. So.
And we're hosting like public therapy sessions.
And we're all paying for that, by the way.
Yeah, we're all paying for that. And they haven't done shit for you. AOC wants to talk about her trauma. Hello, what about the trauma of the people that you refuse to fight for? The people who are losing their jobs, who can't go to a doctor, who, are losing their houses or getting kicked out or, whatever. What about the trauma of those people? I don't give a shit about your trauma.
What about the trauma of kids in Gaza who have to live under the daily threat of Israeli bombardment? Which brings up foreign policy, which they don't even touch anymore. They tried in the beginning. Ilhan Omar has said some things, but as Ali Abu Nima has said, I'm not going to be thankful for crumbs. And these people aren't our friends. They are supposed to be criticized and have their feelings hurt if it comes to that for them. Because as we said before, they've taken up the responsibility of being not just public figures, but politicians claiming to represent people in a democracy. We need to put that in quotes. And they've just turned the whole game around so that the focus is on them and their cult of personality. And people get so caught up in that they don't see that the progressivism they claim to have is just a patina. They're just well-dressed, ill-spoken figures.
They're actors.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you could call them.
I call it like
as you said, they haven't done anything.
Electoral politics is kind of like a soap opera with psychopaths. Like that's all it is. It's just a show. These people aren't actually in control. It's the lobbyists and the corporate overlords who are really in charge of everything. And these are just people putting on a show to distract you. But what do you think when people say that because this drives me crazy. So what do you think, Dontell, when people say that this is quote unquote infighting? Because here's my thing. I am not in with imperialists. I'm not in with people who are, upholding the status quo. I'm not in with people who are voting for Nancy Pelosi. And so it always drives me nuts when people say that this is infighting. These people are not my friends. They're not my allies. They've made that very clear. So what's your opinion on, when people try to turn this around and say that, oh, well, this is the left eating its own? Because it drives me nuts.
I hate that is like my least favorite genre of browbeating and try to talk down to people, because here's the thing, and I hope that people, I don't know why it's so difficult for people to understand this, but people are allowed to be more mad at politicians than you are. You may be more comfortable and your life may not, these policies may not be live or die for you. You'll be fine either way. And that's, if you're still fighting for the issues, I welcome the help from anybody. I'm not like saying anything about that. But what these people who claim that, this infighting is so bad, you don't understand that for some people, when we see them not fight for Medicare for all, that's a death sentence for them. That's a death sentence for somebody that they love, or somebody in their family, somebody that they know. So it's not just like shrug my shoulder, get them next time thing. It's like, no, I gave my last dollars to you. I volunteered for you. I went out and knocked on doors for you. I made phone calls for you. And you won't even fight a little bit. So people are rightfully upset at that. And so if you if you have a problem with the infighting, then I think the way to, you want to quell that, you want to tamp that down, get the politicians to act right. or at least get them to answer to us and explain themselves or something. Because this whole, oh, they're just going to keep doing the opposite of what they ran on, and we all supposed to have faith that they didn't sell out. That shit is it's getting tired. It is old. And with the infighting, like but you said, I'm not an imperialist, and I don't want to like pretend like I'm down with imperialists. So when people are doing pro-war propaganda, I'm going to call that shit out. If it was from CNN, I'd call like or any mainstream media outlet or any wherever politician or think tank doing propaganda, pro-war propaganda, I'm going to call that shit out. And just because you nominally say, oh, I support Medicare for all, I'm not just going to be like, oh, well, they support Medicare for all, I'm going to give them a pass when they advocate genocide for profit. No, I'm going to disagree with you on that. And if you come out to a Medicare for all march, I'm like, hey, thanks for coming out to the Medicare for all march. But it's all like, oh, let's not address the differences that we have here. I strongly disagree with that. And it really does come across as browbeating and tone policing of people who are rightfully pissed off. And I had like a little back and forth with Jordan Sheridan about this yesterday, because he's king of this take. And it's just like, it's just a constant, oh, I get that these politicians fail at every single turn, but you should be less mad at them about it. Like, no, how about I just be as mad as I am? And if you're less mad than I am, okay. And it comes to this, like, it reminds me of like the way I deal with people who are like further left than me. Like, so when I started the show, I would myself like a social democrat. I would never just come out and just rip somebody who just says I'm a socialist, I'm a communist, or I'm an anarchist, whatever. I may not agree with them. I think their views were farther than mine, but I always had to have some type of understanding that they have a different experience than I do. And they might actually be more informed than I am. And they may see this shit is even more corrupt than I do, which is why they're taking that position that's even further than where I am. And I don't see the people who keep going on about infighting. And this is like a constant thing. It's nothing but straw men of the people that they're coming at. They never give you they never address the validity of the outrage that we're feeling. They never give you like the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what, they actually do have a point here. And these politicians are actually kind of becoming, and these prominent left figures, they're actually becoming an obstacle to the movement when they come out and on the wrong side of our best chance to get a floor vote on Medicare for all in my lifetime. And I swear to God, I can't imagine a better scenario than what just happened for us to get a vote on Medicare for all. And that's not me saying, oh, it's never going to happen. But just right now, I cannot conceptualize a better scenario. So you have to acknowledge that there is a line, and at some point, the people, these prominent figures, these politicians, at some point, their counterproductive actions are going to become an obstacle, and it's no longer a net benefit, a net positive to have them, quote, represent us. So if anybody's being honest, there is a line somewhere. If they came out and said, well, honestly, to me, of course, I think they crossed that line. But if they came out and said, "Oh, Joe Biden's the best president ever," which they kind of have, or they came out and said, "Oh,
he is.
I'm pro-war in Syria," or came out and said, "You know what? Medicare for all actually sounds like bullshit to me. These private health insurance companies are really trying to help everybody, and you all should just stop being mad about it." I mean, if they came out and said that shit, you would say, okay, they've crossed the line and they become an obstacle, they become a hindrance, and we can't do what we want while they're still doing that shit. So if you're being honest, there is a line, and that line is different for everybody else. But what I need everybody who's up in arms about the infighting to understand is that some people, that line's been crossed, and it's been crossed a long time ago. And instead of browbeating them about their rightful indignation, be mad at the politicians who keep undermining the movement at every turn. And I know I'm going off, but like,
please do.
they, and it's not, it's, I'm honestly having a hard time believing that they don't know what they're doing and that they're not trying to sabotage it on purpose.
That's what I was going to say. I think
Oh,
it's tactical on their part,
yes.
because as long as they're consumed with the infighting, if you want to call it that, then they have an excuse as to why they're not doing anything else, as to why they're not representing their constituents or listening to us when it comes to a floor vote for Medicare for all, for example.
Well, it drives me crazy because people, this is another excuse that they make for them. Oh, well, they're young and they're new at this. And are you kidding me? These are well-educated, grown-ass adults. My favorite, Jesse and I's favorite thing, our favorite things is when people try to say that, oh, well, AOC just doesn't know about foreign policy. She has a fucking degree in international relations.
From Boston University.
All the resources available in the fucking world.
Right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, these are elected, you ran for office, you got elected. Stop. Like, it's unbelievable that we'll just give them time. They're young. They don't know. They know exactly what they're doing. You cannot convince me otherwise. It's a very intentional, it's a very intentional misdirection. They pretend to be your friend. They use all the right words, and they actively and openly work against you. And they can get away with it because they use all the right words, because people are very dumb and they're impressed by like snarky tweets and dramatic speeches. And, they put on the show. And so people think that, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're representing us. But if you look at their actual records and their actual votes, they're not working for you at all whatsoever. I mean, again, the fact that they voted for Nancy Pelosi is a ginormous red flag. Twice. They voted for her twice without getting anything in return. And in fact, AOC,
they didn't even want to challenge her.
No. And one of the reasons that AOC said that they weren't going to challenge Nancy Pelosi is because it was important for progressives to be put on committee assignments, right? And then Nancy Pelosi took away one of her committee assignments. It's like, it's an obvious farce. It's unbelievable. And people just keep making these excuses, and you have to stop that. Like, these are not morons. Like, they're not dumb. They know exactly what they're doing. And, people say that about Bernie Sanders too. Oh, well, he's just too nice. He's not fucking nice. Are you joking me? This is a guy who took millions and millions and millions of dollars from hardworking American people who didn't have it to give, and then walked the fuck off the field twice after being openly cheated. This is a guy who calls Joe Biden his good friend and a decent man. He's a fucking war criminal. You don't get to call yourself a nice guy and then have war criminals for friends. That's not how that works.
And from a sociological, psychological perspective, a lot of Americans are still traumatized by Russiagate and by Hillary's loss and Trump's win in 2016. And it's a very real trauma that causes them to see the squad, for example, as not just anybody but Trump, but a real resistance to Trump. They're still so consumed with what happened with Trump winning and then what happened afterward. They don't know, even though there's no evidence of collusion, they still have an inkling in them that I think he did collaborate with the Russians or collude with the Russians. And so they just see, like we talked about before, the surface of people like the squad, and it gives them hope, however misguided or distorted it is.
And Jesse, so with that, that was a great point. So people don't want to accept the political reality of how shitty the situation is right now. And I really think that is also a big obstacle, because in not wanting to accept the political reality, like you said, they're trying to find heroes anywhere. But what people need to understand is, and why I spend so much time criticizing these politicians as well. Before it was the Democratic Party, but now I spend so much time criticizing these politicians, because the ones that were claiming to represent us, because people just need to understand there are no good guys here. Everybody's fucked up. Everybody sold you. Everybody left you for dead. And until people come to that realization, then they won't take it to the next step, the logical conclusion. Okay, so we can't vote politicians to change anything. So we have to use public pressure in the streets to do it. And if people think that there's that easy out of, oh, let me just keep giving money to AOC, let me keep giving money to Bernie Sanders, and then Medicare for All is going to appear from the ether. If people keep believing that shit, it is going to be hard to build the pressure to force these politicians. And there's something that I mentioned yesterday on Twitter. People act like everything is happening in a vacuum. Yeah, AOC's fucking up. Yeah, Bernie's fucking up. Yeah, Ilhan Omar and the Justice Democrats, Pramila Jayapal fucking up at every turn, undermining the movement at every turn. But you guys can just keep organizing. Go tell people to go protest. That doesn't work the people, there's a pool of people who are already politically engaged, politically informed, and activated in this country and on our side on the policies. That number is limited. It's not infinite. So when the people who we can most likely get into the streets are still listening to these fucking charlatans like AOC and Bernie Sanders tell them, oh, don't fight now. We shouldn't force to vote on Medicare for All now. Oh yeah, we could hold up the stimulus bill and make it better, but we're not going to do that and force us to do that. Just, keep your powder dry, and we'll make the next fight. We'll get something. When you have them telling that to the audience of tens of millions of people who, like I said, are already on our side on the issues, already politically involved, and the closest people we can get into the streets, well, then now they're undermining the effort to get people in the streets. And you can't just keep operating. It's as if you're on a basketball team and somebody is, every time they're supposed to shoot free throws, they're not even trying to make that shit, and they're just missing on purpose. And it's a close game, and it's gonna come down to the last 2 points or whatever. If that motherfucker keeps doing that, you're gonna cost everybody the game. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna make more buckets, and then no, how about you just stop trying to miss the fucking free throws? And people I don't know why that's why people won't acknowledge that that's the reality of what's going on. They aren't just wrong, they're undermining our efforts to mobilize people, and they're taking millions of people down that path of accepting neoliberal incrementalism and hoping, fingers crossed, that we'll get Medicare for All 30 years from now, 50 years from now. That is so detrimental. That is more harmful to the cause of getting people out into the streets than anything Nancy Pelosi could do, anything Joe Biden could do, anything that any establishment politician can do.
And what they're doing
100%.
at the same time is providing cover for Joe Biden and the Defense Department to illegally bomb Syria, to sell what's called, bizarrely, lethal aid to Ukraine, to say that we're withdrawing from Afghanistan, but we are still going to have a presence there. So essentially the war and occupation is going to continue. They don't touch or talk about any of those things. And then on top of that, the infighting that we've talked about, the air balls they've been constantly throwing, it provides total cover for American imperialism. And they are complicit in that. And as we've said, they're intelligent. They know that that's what they're doing, but they don't care, because it is really just about their career at this point. And that's why I don't think they can be pushed, and I have no hope or trust for them ever.
No.
And about the imperialism, so it makes me want to talk about Syria, because so now Biden's president, and he just gonna bomb Syria whenever the fuck he feels like it, violate international law, violate our own law, and this act of aggression, this act of war against a country that we've already destroyed internally with our dirty war and our support of the jihadists and rebels all throughout Syria to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. So to escalate the war, the dirty war and the regime change, now Biden is attacking the Syrian government and their allies directly with airstrikes. And again, these politicians claiming to be anti-war won't do a goddamn thing about it. And
AOC hasn't mentioned it. AOC hasn't said once.
Twice he did it, and she
yes.
hasn't mentioned it.
Also,
and it's like
in that bombing, Iraq was bombed as well.
Yes,
a country we're supposed to have liberated and is now a stable, functioning democracy. We're bombing it again because of Iranian-backed militias, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Well, Jesse, we had to bomb it one last time for good measure because it's been 20 years. So we just, nostalgia.
One last time. It was make sure we got
all the bombs we needed to drop out. So like it's so wild to me. And people like, they give them credit when they just make these mealy-mouthed, weak-ass, I wish you would have came and got congressional approval before you did that war crime. Like, that is such a weak-ass statement, and that's the best that you're going to get from them on a good day. So it is crazy because the reaction is so disproportionate to what the moment actually calls for. That man, he said that war is the most serious thing and the most the most impactful thing that any politician can ever call for, can ever do. And he goes and illegally escalates and commits war crimes in an act of aggression, an act of war against a country for absolutely no reason. And so the response in a sane world, if our Congress was doing what they were supposed to do and there were actually a check on the executive branch, there would have been articles of impeachment drafted. At the very least, there should have been an impeachment inquiry, because it's not really up for debate whether that was a war crime, whether that was illegal. It's pretty clear on its face. So what's going on here? And this shows that there is not a single actual anti-imperialist in Congress, not a single one. Because even if they thought it was a long shot, even if they thought the whole Congress and the Republican Party and the Democratic Party would come out against them and they wouldn't support it, you have this opportunity to, and the facts are 100%, would be 100% on your side. You have this opportunity to really put this imperialist foreign policy agenda that's been going on over decades now. You have the ability to put it on trial and have Joe Biden come out and defend himself for that in under oath in Congress. You have the ability to do that, and whatever comes of it, maybe you actually impeach him, maybe you don't, or maybe you get us to acknowledge our dirty war in Syria, whatever it is. There is a massive opportunity that presents itself when a situation like this happens. And aside from the opportunity, it's your responsibility as a member of Congress to check him on this. And they all just, they're going to shrug their shoulders and act like it didn't happen. Let's just talk about the infrastructure bill. So your good friend, but this is where I'm saying this, your good friend is committing war crimes and killing innocent people. And instead of holding him accountable for that, you're just going to act like that's not happening, and you're just going to keep pushing his agenda. You're going to keep helping him do some other shit and ignore the war crimes that he's doing.
I actually tweeted at him about that. He tweeted something about, I don't even remember what it was. And I was like, hey, Bernie, your good friend is blowing shit up again. Maybe you should say something about that. And of course he doesn't, he didn't, he won't.
Let's be clear, those Iranian-backed militias, I'm assuming the references to Hezbollah, and the New York Times did name 2 militias, but they're there by invitation. They're not occupying forces. They're in Syria and they're in Iraq by invitation. And
we're the ones occupying there. We're the ones there illegally.
Right.
We don't have an invitation from the Syrian government, and the Iraqi government voted to expel us, and we refuse to leave.
And look at a map of Syria and see where American forces are stationed. They're guarding the oil fields of eastern Syria. That's almost exclusively where they are. And
Syria produces their own oil, and there's a gas shortage in Syria because the sanctions, because we've occupied their oil fields, and then we have sanctions so that they can't even afford to buy back their own oil.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And the precedent has been set, though, for Biden. He can get away with this because he got away with Libya. He got away with destroying that country and turning it into a slave state, a failed slave state. And what's a bombing of Syria 36 days after taking office? It's just a little bombing of Syria and Iraq. He destroyed an entire country that's still destroyed and may never recover. It was one of the most secular countries in the Arab world. And if he can get away with that, he can easily get away with this without whether he has congressional approval or not.
Well,
and that's
that
what
really,
I'm saying. Like, this is it's so the war crimes. It's just so baked into the cake, and it's so accepted as like common practice. And this is it is so far from anything that's acceptable or reasonable. Like the amount of devastation that the U.S. military and our intelligence apparatus, national security apparatus is wreaking on the rest of the world. It is really almost impossible to put into words. You have the and Joe Biden has been not like a passive observer, somebody doing yes votes. He is somebody who has led the charge for all of these wars, all of these interventions, all these regime change wars, all of it. And he's completely unrepentant about it. And that's another thing. Like the imagine, like, and people love to, oh yeah, Joe Biden's a good guy. You know, imagine how fucking soulless you have to be after you led us into the Iraq War and the fucking debacle that was, and 1 million civilians dead, devastated the country and devastated the region. And you have absolutely no humility, you have no pause about doing that to the next country, and then you do it to that country, and you do it like 5 other times. Like, at what point are we allowed to make like actual judgments on somebody's character when they continue to do genocide for profit and facilitate the murder of innocent people all over the world for their entire careers? At what point are we allowed to make that judgment call and say Joe Biden's a fucking monster on par with like the worst war criminals in human history? Like this and so in Syria, it's just even it's mind-boggling, because it's before it was the justification that we've been given from the government for our involvement there. It's bounced back and forth 1 million times since we've been in Syria. Oh, Assad gasses on people. Oh, he was brutalizing protesters, and oh, we have to get involved now. Or oh, look at ISIS. What do you know? After we gave them weapons and training and funding and all that stuff, ISIS is all over Syria. So now we have to be involved to bomb ISIS. Well, they were bombing military groups aligned with Iran and the Syrian government the whole time anyway. So it's just like this whole thing has just been one big old clusterfuck, and of with no like line of logic throughout any of it. And like you said, so now the country is in shambles, it's in chaos, and they still won't let up. They're occupying the third of Syria. They like you said, the fuel shortages, that alone is scandalous and should draw international ire. Because I've seen the videos, I've seen the photos of people lined up, and I've heard like Rania Khalek and Vanessa Beeley talk about it. People lining up for like hours, like 12 hours, 18 hours to fill up their gas tank. And it's like, people, like I said,
we saw the same thing happen in Iraq too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all over the Middle East, and these countries are producing their own oil. So it's like all of this is like an elaborate attempt to just sow chaos in these countries. And it's so gross to me how Biden is just getting away with it. And there isn't even any attempt to hold him to account for any of the other war crimes that he was responsible for, any of the other shit that he's done in the Middle East. And it's just, I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know, like, anti-war protests or direct actions or what it is, but it is really fucking depressing. Like, even after the Afghanistan papers came out, like, part of me was like, maybe if it was just 3% or 5%, part of me was naive enough to think that, there would be some reckoning. After that, our own government admits, yeah, we were just there massacring people, and we were there wreaking havoc, destroying the country, lied about the civilian casualties, and there was a whole elaborate plan on our behalf from the State Department and the White House to manipulate the data to make the public to obfuscate for what's actually happening from the public. Part of me, even like I said, even when it was 3%, 5%, that those documents were so damning and so irrefutable, and from the people who were directly in charge of it, you would think that too would build some type of pressure.
Yeah, where's the commission on that?
But it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't. And that's another, there should be, I don't know how there hasn't been congressional hearings and investigations on the Afghanistan papers from when it first happened. But even now, Joe Biden is president. So with Donald Trump, he was lying about the war in real time. But Joe Biden has been lying about the war from the fucking beginning, and now he's president. And he brought back all of the same vile creatures that got us there to begin with and lied the entire way through. And so now they're back in government and everybody's acting like, oh, nothing to see here. As if they didn't just weren't exposed for being these rabid facilitators of genocide. And it's it's really, it's mind blowing.
Well, and that really brings it back to the media, though, because, and especially you can see the distinct difference between how the media reacts to what Donald Trump did to how the media is now reacting to what Joe Biden does. Joe Biden is arguably worse than Donald Trump on numerous issues, including foreign policy. And, we hear more about Joe Biden's scrunchies and their dogs peeing in the hallway than we do about the fact that they're illegally bombing Syria. And so it really does speak to the fact that the media is complicit in all of this stuff. And like you said, war crimes have just become, they've normalized it. It's something that we don't ever address. And instead of addressing the actual war crimes, we punish the truth tellers, the people who expose those war crimes. I mean, this is not anything new. John Kiriakou was the guy who exposed the torture program. He's the only person that ever saw jail time. Chelsea Manning is somebody who exposed the Iraq, Afghanistan, Guantanamo Bay, all of that stuff. And herself and Julian Assange are the only two people who have ever been penalized for that. And it's something that this repeats. I mean, Joshua Schultz, who's the alleged Vault 7 whistleblower.
Daniel Hale.
I mean, the list goes on and on and on. In this country, we don't go after the criminals. We go after the people who expose them. And that is in large part because of the media, because the media runs cover for power. They're completely corporate captured. And so they make excuses for and justify and spin and obfuscate and omit key details and facts. And they make it so that it seems like this is just a totally normal way for things to be. And it's not. Like, war crimes are not okay. I don't know why anybody is ever, arguing that this is something that we should just be accepting. It should be something that people are held to account for, and that there should be, Henry Kissinger should be in the fucking Hague. Hillary Clinton should be in the fucking Hague. I have a whole thread about Julian Assange where I post I have a picture of Julian Assange and then random war criminal, whoever, George Bush, Tony Blair, Donald Rumsfeld. We got rid of that one. But there's a list of people who, and the whole point of the thread is the wrong man is in jail. The wrong man is in prison. Julian Assange should be, there should be, you want statues for people? There should be statues for Julian Assange. There should be statues for whistleblowers and truth tellers and people who expose the criminality and corruption within our government. And the people who are, responsible for that criminality and corruption, those should be the people who are held accountable. And we have it bass backwards. And I don't know how we flip that. I don't know how we get people to recognize that, what Julian Assange did and is being punished for is incredibly important. It's crucial to like a healthy and democratic society. We should be able to hold powerful people to account. And, this isn't, Julian, first of all, he's never gotten it wrong. But second of all, this is not like some talking head's opinion. He's giving you source documentation, 100% verifiable, authenticated source documentation. Here's the evidence. You do with this what you want. It really does make journalism as close to a science as is humanly possible. And, that's something that is incredibly valuable to anybody who, values democracy, like legitimate democracy and, holding powerful people. I don't want unaccountable government, and that's where we're headed. But that, again, just speaks to the fact that, our mainstream media is unbelievably dangerous, the way that they run cover for power.
Yeah. And in Syria, the reporting on Syria, it's been so fucking bad because if they at any point, it's like similar to like with the Julian Assange case. If you acknowledge some of the most egregious going on in this entire affair, you can't make the case that we should be anywhere involved in Syria. And in fact, anybody who had us in Syria, they should be in prison. You like the whole and things that haven't been exposed yet because just a lack of reporting because it's a fucking war zone. But like with the alleged gas attacks and the alleged chemical weapons attack, it's very likely, if not the most, it actually is the most likely scenario that the U.S. national security apparatus, whether it's the CIA or the State Department, somebody had these attacks staged to further the pro-regime change narrative. And so then you get the OPCW whistleblowers, the OPCW scandal and cover-up. Where's the outrage from the media? The outrage should have been multiplied. You remember with all the nonstop wall-to-wall coverage when the gas attacks did happen, and oh my God, Assad is such a terrible person. We have to overthrow him. He's so bad. I can't believe he did that to his own people. Well, now the investigation, and of course it didn't. The mandate that the OPCW had originally wasn't to decide who did it, what, and exactly how it happened. They were supposed to investigate whether or not the chemical weapons attack happened, and if it happened, how it happened. They through the course of their investigation, they found that it was very unlikely that it was a chemical weapons attack done by the Bashar al-Assad. So all the people who were ranting and raving to get us in to bomb Syria after those alleged chemical weapons attacks, they should have also been the first ones coming out and saying, oh my God, Bashar al-Assad didn't kill those people. It was somebody else that killed those people, and they try to frame him so that we could start a war and kill more people. But the media, and this is what it makes me sometimes more cynical and less believing that these are just honest mistakes, because all those journalists, all those hosts, everybody who ran these stories, these wall to wall, I have a hard time believing that they just have never heard the counterpoint, the debunking of that story. So they've, at some point, I'm sure that they've heard that this was some type of staged event, but they won't say anything about it. Right, they won't say anything about it because it undermines the pro-war narrative, and that's what they're there to do. They're there to lie about the war, or the stories about how we were funding different jihadists and rebels and things like that, and then they ended up fighting each other. Well, it was reported. They like I can't remember who it was. Maybe like the LA Times. No, it wasn't the LA Times. Somebody wrote a article about it, and that was one time. But again, this is one of the biggest wars that we've been involved in since Iraq. And you mean to tell us that our government is funding the jihadists that we were claiming as these big international threats, and we were funding them, and they won roughshod, and we were funding them, and we couldn't even control them. They were fighting amongst themselves with our weapons and our funding. Again, if the media did their job and reported on that as it should have been, and reported on that constantly to this day, talking about Timber Sycamore and this whole elaborate plan on behalf of the government to fund rebels to overthrow the government. Again, it does nothing but paint the U.S. government in a negative light and bust up the pro-war narrative. So they acknowledged it, but they won't make the point of it. They won't drive it home like they should. So it's crazy, and I think that one of the ways to hopefully like change the media narrative about it is to just be more honest about what's happening. Like Richard Medhurst, he is indignant when he talks about this shit because that's his home country. That's his family and the people he knows.
But all of us should be angry. All of us should be angry.
Exactly. Angry and shouldn't be giving the benefit of the doubt. Oh, maybe Biden doesn't know what he's doing, or maybe they think that they're doing. No. This is the umpteenth war that Biden started. He knows how these things go down. He knows how we devastate these countries, and he knows it's at the behest of the defense contractors who are probably in his ear telling him to do more war and bomb more. So like Rich, like I think that approach of just being straight up about it and not mincing words, not giving the benefit of doubt, and calling them what the imperialist swine, like Richard Benner said. They like people need to know how. Like we're the bad actors, we're the bad guys. Like it's not like, oh, we mean well, we're doing things that I don't. No, we're just the bad guys.
The United States is the largest terrorist organization in the world. That is not negotiable. That is a fact. Period. End of story. And I always ask this question because yes, the media is terrible and they cover it in a very disingenuous way. But you know, for like the average person, how many times does your government get to lie to you before your sense of skepticism kicks in? This is not the first time that we've been completely misled and misinformed on something like this. I mean, the incubator babies, the Gulf of Tonkin. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, we are constantly being lied to, and in service of war and of power and of greed and of profit. And so it's very frustrating to me that people just immediately buy into these narratives. They don't even question it. You know, Rachel Maddow said it, so it must be true. And it's really frustrating to me, the level of cognitive dissonance in this country, which again speaks to the fact that the United States is also the world's most propagandized country. You know, there's no question. People often talk about, oh, well, North Korea this or whatever. No, the United States is the most propagandized country on earth. Steve Boykin says it all the time. It is a 100% legitimate fact. And what's more dangerous about the way that propaganda is carried out in this country is it's very covert. It's very subtle, and it comes at you from every direction. It's you know, on every magazine cover, on every show that you watch. It's, you know, on billboards. It's in your schools. It's everywhere. I mean, you're propagandized from birth.
Did you see that article from a couple years ago about how the military and the CIA infiltrated like media, and like all the movies that they're involved in, and the TV shows and things like that? Like it is a very deep and elaborate plan to misinform the public when it comes to war.
Zero Dark 30, the film about bin Laden's killing. The main consultant for that film was the CIA.
They're the main consultant on a large majority of movies.
That's why that movie was essentially what we were told happened in May of 2011. It followed the same story we were told. And then at the end, we get Jessica Chastain leaning against a wall, exhausted from her humanitarian mission, and the one tear comes down her eye because they finally got bin Laden. And, you know, they were so proud to expose this fact that they had to bury him at sea, supposedly, where nobody knows for sure if they actually did that. And even the beginning of that narrative of how he was caught, Seymour Hersh has written really well about this. He was caught because there was a bounty out on him, and somebody went to a CIA outpost, I believe, in Afghanistan, and said, he's in this compound in Pakistan, and I want the money for that. And that's as simple as it was. And they try to make it into this narrative that, you know, a courier was going from bin Laden's compound to mail something like that. It was a completely falsified narrative. Who knows how much of it is falsified? But for anybody who's watching, if you want to get a good autopsy, as we said before, of what happened there, look up Cy Hersh's pieces. He wrote them for the London Review of Books a few years back, and he really sets the record straight. And of course, the London Review of Books is a very respectable publication, but he said there weren't any papers like the New York Times, for example, or the New Yorker, which he's written for a lot. They weren't willing to take those stories because they contradict the narrative that we're supposed to follow. And let's be clear here too, that this goes back to the late 90s with Project for a New American Century, where their charter, if you will, laid out the countries that were going to be targeted for regime change. And Syria was one of them. And in the 20 plus years since then, we've seen people like Bill Kristol, who was one of the authors and signatories to that charter for Project for a New American Century. We've seen him become a resistance figure along with Bush Jr. So their imperial policies have seeped into what's supposed to be considered the resistance. And I think that's why we're seeing people who are posturing as progressives or on the left supporting dirty war in Syria, supporting or continuing to push this just falsity that there is a genocide happening against the Uyghurs in Western China. It goes on. And the big problem now, as I just said, is that there are figures like Bill Kristol who are legitimate war criminals who have been subsumed into liberal culture, if you will, because it's not leftist culture.
No.
It's certainly not resistance culture, but let's call it resistance with a big R and a trademark symbol at the end of it. But that's why, and these people have influence still, and it goes from them and it transfers to people like the Young Turks and the people they surround themselves with, like Oz Chatterjee, for example, who is just one of the most despicable figures, pretending to be a journalist, constantly championing for regime change in Syria, smearing real reporters like Robert Fisk after they die, so they have so they know they can't get sued for making up complete bullshit. And that's part of the problem, is that it's infiltrated what's supposed to be considered the, again, resistance to authoritarianism, but it's really just a bedfellow of authoritarianism dressed up as a human rights project.
Like with the media and like the infiltration of like the national security state in media, what really kind of like blew my mind. I used to see like like the national security analysts who used to be like FBI agents or CIA agents or whatever. You see them, they come on, they do commentary on CNN, MSNBC, or whatever. But when they hired John Brennan, the fucking CIA director, to be the chief national security analyst on their network for the entire NBC network, I was like, oh, so they're not even gonna try to hide it anymore.
They're not hiding it anymore.
They have the person who was in charge of doing pro-war propaganda to deceive the world and the United States. They're going to have him as if he's like some type of objective analyst to, tell the truth about whatever the national security. Like, it's just like they've merged into just this one big war machine, and it's so hard and to explain how fucked up the way the media ecosystem is to people who are like, to the uninitiated, as people say. Like, how do you explain that and not sound like a crazy person, that yes, actually the CIA is involved in the production of most, like, any show that has anything to do with like the military or the CIA or like foreign policy or anything like that. The CIA and the State Department and the Pentagon, they're involved with the direction of it. They even have like editorial control over the exact lines in these things. So it's just like, it's very deep. It's very deep. And like when John Brennan comes on NBC and does a Russiagate for 3 years and something that he was also implicated in, and is allowed to just spin this narrative, and also with Syria, because again, he was CIA director at the time when they were funding, giving weapons to jihadists in Syria, and now he's going to come on and not only give analysis on our involvement in Syria. He's the chief national security analyst, so his opinion on this is above everyone else's at the network. That is so fucking crazy to me, because like, again, like this whole, like this, the absence of adversarial media is jaw-dropping. John Brennan should be afraid to step in front of a camera or a microphone, because if we had an actual adversarial press, all the shit that they would have to confront him on. He should be like living in some type of fucking cabin, log cabin or somewhere off in the wilderness, afraid to show his face in front of any reporter, because all the shit that he spying on senators, the torture, the fucking lying to get into all these different wars, involvement in Yemen and in Syria and stuff like that, all these things that he needs to answer for. Never once I've never seen him press on any of those things.
No.
And now he's like controlling the narrative from the newsroom. It's just, it's mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
And they're not held to account for anything they say. James Clapper is another one. He lied to Congress about the NSA spying program, and he gets one of these contributor or whatever you call them positions on, I think he's on CNN or was on CNN. And at one point during the height of Russiagate, he said in all seriousness that he believes Russians are genetically predisposed to meddling. And it just passed without any comment, without even a blink of an eye. It was just accepted. He could come out and say that, which is, I don't know if you can call that racism necessarily, but it's certainly xenophobia.
It's definitely xenophobic. I guess you could say it is kind of racist, because it is about like the Russian people. And they have like, I don't know. With the James Clapper thing, he also, like you said, lied in front of Congress, and now he gets to now he's like the truth teller who gets paid to tell you the truth on national television. It makes no sense.
It's terrifying, actually, because we've talked about this multiple times throughout this conversation, but the level of involvement that the media has in the shit show that we find ourselves in is pretty extensive. Yes, it's comes from lobbyists and the corporate overlords and all of that stuff, but the media is the one that is helping propagate their narrative. The media is the one that is helping to brainwash the American populace and lie to the American populace. And so when they're openly hiring these absolute scumbags, I mean legitimate war criminals, to come on their news program to inform people, that's just ridiculous. And it's accepted. Like, it's just like a thing that it's just been normalized. Like, nobody is up in arms about the fact that these people are allowed to have these kinds of platforms. They should be in prison. And instead they're on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, trying to inform the American people about, all different manner of topics and issues. And that's terrifying that's the level of, mainstream discourse in the media that we find ourselves in. And it is incredibly dangerous. And I honestly don't know, doing what I do, it's something that I grapple with all the time. I have no idea how to fight back against this shit. I really don't. It's really, it's gotten so bad, and it really is just so pervasive, and the machine is so big. I just don't know how we can effectively, fight back against it. And I talk about this all the time, but the Assange thing is such a major deal to me, because the topic of narrative management and narrative control is literally the front line of everything else that we face. You are not going to be able to effectively organize for or fight for any issue that you care about if you cannot, put out legitimate information and consume legitimate information. You just are not. If you want healthcare, you're not going to be able to do that unless you can, let people know what your position is in a real way, and have them be able to hear and understand you in like a fair and balanced way. And that's just not happening. And it's the same. It's for environmental issues, for education, for foreign policy, for all of those things. Like, we can't fight back against any of the stuff that's being done to us if we can't even just get information out there or consume information that matters to what we care about. And so that's why I, just for me personally, I focus so much on Julian Assange and free speech, free press, because it is such a dangerous, and I hate the term slippery slope because it's so overused, but this is unbelievably dangerous where we find ourselves in terms of our media. Just forget the fact that we're torturing a journalist for, doing journalism, and we're about to potentially extradite a journalist for the first time and charge a journalist under the Espionage Act for the first time, and the unbelievably dangerous precedent that sets. But it really is just incredibly terrifying where we find ourselves in the media right now. And now that we have there's been some level of breakthrough on the independent media level. I mean, what we're doing right now, they're cracking down on it. They're demonetizing people, they're deplatforming people. Matt Orfalea just got demonetized from a video from 7 fucking years ago. Like, they went back and tried to find a video from 7 years ago and then demonetized him over it. And it's happening across the board. It's happened to Convo Couch and Franco and Jordan Cheriton, who himself has advocated for censorship. And then when it happens to him, it's a problem, which is always very frustrating to me, because he does do great work, but he's very inconsistent on some shit, and it bothers me. But it's happening across the board, and it's not just happening to the Alex Joneses. It's happening to everybody, and it's only going to continue to get worse. And I don't know how to get people to care about that. I don't know how to get people to recognize how dangerous this is. I can't find the words to make people understand what the threat level is. I mean, seriously, it's been over a week now since the story broke about Siggy Thorderson lying about Julian Assange, and nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. And that's really I don't understand how to get people to recognize why that's a very big problem. But that's where we find ourselves.
Yeah. And the point you make about the media being complicit in all this, and they are, we get that the political system is rigged. We get that the oligarchs control the country, and the corporations bought the government and control the politicians, and they're all corrupt. And the entire establishment is doing everything they can to maintain the status quo and undermine any opposition to it.
Which is why Trump was such a threat to not just the Democrats, but the national security state that backs the DNC, because he was willing to do things, for example, like talk with Kim Jong-un, or there were planned peace talks with the Taliban that were scuppered at the last minute by the Democrats. And whether Trump was sincere in those approaches or what he wanted to do, that's another question. But as soon as he started stepping outside of their preferred box, it just added more fuel to the fire with Russiagate, especially. And that's why they hated him, because
they don't like to be challenged.
He wasn't
with the media. If the media was doing their job, then there would be some pushback to the status quo. But the media is not doing their job, so it does feel like there is no opposition. Because, like you said, when it was Donald Trump, most of the time he was going along with the shit that they wanted to do. But the times where they did challenge him, they hated that shit because nobody does. So they have it, the opposition on lock. And the media is supposed to be leading the charge, because they are supposed to be informing the people. They are supposed to let you know that this isn't normal. It isn't normal that the government doesn't provide healthcare to their citizens. It isn't normal that you have so many people living in poverty in the richest country in the history of the world. It's not normal that the government left us for dead in the worst emergency in US history. That shit isn't normal. And it's the media's job to inform the public. And if the public is not informed, and this is something I talk about, people think brainwashing is, you sit somebody in a room and you just feed them this information, and it's this whole elaborate thing to get them to control a person. But it's a lot simpler than that. All you have to do really is make it so that the people only get the information that you want them to get. You make it so that they don't know that it's even an option on the table that the government provides you healthcare. That they don't know that, it's possible to have a country and not be at war. So when the media doesn't inform the people on those things, then the country turns into, there's a bunch of sheep and a bunch of gullible people who aren't informed enough to push back. And so it manifests as if there's absolutely no opposition. It's just straight brute force of the government. And then we just all sitting here in our homes, and sometimes, you know, you could, like you guys all do sometimes, organize a protest or whatever. But it just feels like the pressure is just, you don't know how to overcome it because it's just so much. So as far as the media, I think I've definitely become more optimistic lately because of the emergence of new media. There was a time when I was like, this was a very big concern that I had before I started doing my show, because I was like, there was a few new media hosts and I agreed with them a lot more at the time, but there was still massive disagreements. And I think that they were falling short. All of them were falling short in their own different areas. And it was only like a handful of people. So I was just like, there's no way we could actually get like a political revolution if this is all we have in media. But over like the last year, it's made me very happy to see like all the people coming out and voicing their opinions and growing their platforms and actually challenging the status quo. That has been a great thing. People doing it from all over the country, writing, whether it's writing articles on Substack or starting their own YouTube channel or doing interviews or whatever it is. I've seen the media space become, I don't know the exact word, but I wouldn't say flooded, but it's more of the adversarial content is being put out there, and it's such a range of hosts and journalists and independent reporters and things like that we are able to cover a wide range of topics, and we are able to get a bunch of different perspectives and compel more people than if it was just like a handful of people. So like a handful of media figures. So I do think that as it is right now, I don't think it's enough to like completely undermine the propaganda from mainstream media. But I do think it is improving, and I do think that eventually the tide is going to change. And the biggest, to me, I think it's inevitable in terms of just the evolution of the way that people have get their news and get their information. It's becoming more online, and we own the online space. So I think that it's kind of inevitable that more people will get their news from sources like us and independent journalists and things like that than before. But the main obstacle from that happening is, like you said, the censorship. Because now that's like the last trick that they got up their sleeve is to just make it so that nobody can hear us. Mm-hmm. And even though before they did that through the gatekeepers of mainstream media, and you have to be approved by the executives and the producers and all those things before you even get a chance to get in front of an audience. And the internet completely blew that shit up. And so now they're just like reeling and doing anything they can to suppress it. But I don't know. It would take like an full-on authoritarian crackdown, like, oh, we're just gonna, and they are doing it to different individual people, completely removing their channels and removing their content. Like they banned Press TV and all those other international independent outlets or international outlets, news outlets. They're going to have to do that to everybody, is what I'm saying. Well, they're going to have to do it to all of us. And if that happens, I mean, hopefully enough people would realize by then that this shit is not normal.
I would hope so.
Yeah, and it's important to put this in the larger frame of imperialism. These are tentacles of American imperialism and empire. And what's that all about? That's about the acquisition of territory and the strategic resources within that territory and the control of those. And that's why we're seeing this huge pivot toward China now, which is involved with the Belt and Road Initiative, which would be essentially an economic alliance that does not include the United States. And we're seeing that that would affect the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which the US desperately wants to see built. And the problem above that or related to that is that the US is already well within the stages of imperial overreach. It's financially, militarily, as far as troop numbers are concerned, it's well beyond overextended itself. And these are the tentacles that grow out of that, what we're seeing with the media, what we're seeing with politicians who are posing as progressives, but are completely in lockstep with our government's imperial machinations. And maybe this is more pessimistic a point of view, but I think it's too far gone. And that's why it is up to us to create our own spaces for the dialogue that we need to have, because those in charge of empire and their surrogates are not going to let us do it. They are more than happy to have us watching MSNBC or CNN or Fox every night. And I think we're just too far gone at this point, but that doesn't mean we sit back and be complicit and don't do anything. We do the work that we feel we need to do, and whatever that results in, it results in, but at least we can say that we fought. And yes. Again, I just want to emphasize the point that this is about imperialism and empire, and that's not to minimize the domestic issues, because they're directly tied in with what we're doing abroad. So I think that bigger picture is something that we have to keep in mind as we talk about this, because like you said earlier, it's Dontell, it's not just happening in a vacuum or in a bubble. This is a huge labyrinthine machine that we're dealing with here.
And with like the how it relates to our foreign policy, like you can tell by like how they, first of all, the people that they use to determine who gets censored and who doesn't, like the Atlantic Council or Bellingcat or any of these other like fucking CIA cutouts.
Yeah, I had a Bellingcat functionary come after me. The first show I ever did for Facts on the Ground, I interviewed Tarek Haddad, who's a journalist based in London, and he'd recently quit Newsweek because he wanted to do a story about the OPCW cover-up, and they wouldn't let him do it, and a bunch of other things went down there that led him to leave. So he and we had a conversation, and we talked a lot about Syria and the OPCW and the bullshit report that came out. And within a day or two, this guy, Jet Goldsmith from Bellingcat, came at me on Twitter and tried to intimidate me with regard to Syria. And then fast forward to last week, the Gray Zone did a live stream about a lawsuit that was brought against them by this woman, Salome Anderson, the daughter of Terry Anderson, who was an AP journalist who was kidnapped and held prisoner for 6 years, I believe it was, in Lebanon back during the Lebanese Civil War. So she brought a lawsuit against the Gray Zone, and one of the, I guess, players who initiated this lawsuit, or was a functionary helping to keep it moving along, was Jet Goldsmith from Bellingcat. He's based in Denver, Colorado. Max called him like the Chucky doll of these people. I love Max. This being the point, though, that he's like the Chucky doll of these people online who are paid to go after people like us, especially, not to diminish what we're doing, but like the smaller fish, so to say, to set an example to other people who may be thinking of doing the same thing, of carving out their own space and adding to the dialogue, to scare them away from doing that and scare them into going along with the regime change narratives that they want us to go along with.
And that's such a big part of the censorship that I don't think anybody really talks about enough, is how it does discourage people from ever even wanting to tell the truth, from ever even wanting to get involved with anything like this, because it is such a big risk professionally, and like in terms of your own personal finances, to decide that, you know, I care about this. I really liked it, like talking about these important issues, and I think it's important. So I'm going to devote like I'm just going to make this my thing, and I'm going to do it for a living. That's such a big risk. And then when you add in, because there's so many factors to it, like, oh, will I be able to get an audience that's big enough to support me, or how long will that audience support me, and like all this, so many different things to so many different factors that make it risky. But then when you add in the censorship and the fact that once you start telling the truth and you get big enough and you start telling the truth about war, and you start telling the truth about corruption and all these things, it puts a target on your back at some point, one day you can wake up and all your shit can be gone. Your whole YouTube channel could be like, everything you built can just be gone. Like all the videos, all the following, all of everything, your audience could just be gone. That is understandably, that can turn a lot of people off, because it's just a headache and a hassle, and it has a chilling effect on critics of empire, on critics of the US government, and it makes them think twice about speaking out. And it's, you know, easy to dismiss. Oh, it's not, I wouldn't even say it's easy to dismiss, but some people will be like, oh, it's one person's channel here, it's one person's channel here. Now I largely disagree with that, because we've seen mass hundreds and thousands of different accounts suspended and demonetized and all these different things. But when it's individual people, you can argue, oh, it's one person, they can do this instead, or they can do that instead. But like, what message does it send to all the people who could have started doing this, but they said, you know what, I've seen all the demonetization, I've seen all the channels suspended, and you know what, I just don't even want to deal with it. What about all those people? Like, it's impossible to even quantify that. So I do appreciate how people like you all and Jimmy Dore and Jackson Hinkle and Jordan Sheridan, like, get into the details and the specifics of like all these different instances of censorship. But I do think that, like Jesse brings up here, there's a more abstract conversation to be had about the effects it has that you just can't quantify.
Yeah, I've experienced that a lot with getting people to cover Julian Assange. Even independent media channels have straight up told us, we won't cover this because we don't want our channel taken down. We don't want to be demonetized. People are worried that they'll lose clicks and subscriptions and Patreons and all of that stuff. And that's really depressing to me, because, you know, the idea of independent media was supposed to be that, you know, this was the counter to mainstream narratives. But when you're right, like when the chilling effect takes over, and it's not even just the chilling effect too. I think it's, you know, once people reach a certain level and they're now dependent on this as their job, as like their source of income, they start to self-censor because they want to appeal to the broadest base of viewers. And that becomes a real problem, because then people are starting to ignore really controversial subjects that need to be talked about because they're afraid. And that's a really big problem to me. And I think that that's something that people don't really talk about a lot is, you know, as good as independent media could be, you know, we're in this space now where people, it's like this, I don't know if it's necessarily opportunism or if it's just like, you know, just trying to maintain a level of, being able to take care of themselves or whatever. But it is, and if Aaron Maté, even as great as a journalist as Aaron Maté on Jimmy Dore said, listen, some of us have like, this is our job. We have to be careful about what we talk about and who we talk about it with. And you know what I mean? And it's even somebody who, is as good on most issues as Aaron Maté, will openly admit that he has to be careful sometimes just because he doesn't want to burn bridges and he wants to be able to have, you know what I mean? And it really is this kind of like, just, I don't know, this self-sabotage almost of independent journalists who
you made those are such great points. And because I think that an important part of anybody who, and I encourage anybody watching this show, I don't care who you are, I don't care what education you have, I don't care if you dropped out in the 3rd grade, if you follow these stories, you follow these issues, and you think you have something to add to the conversation, I encourage anybody to start their own show, write their own articles or whatever. But I think an important part of it, like an important characteristic that anybody who gets involved in this should have, is the ability to be centered, to center yourself, and to know why you're doing it, and don't let the other bullshit affect you. Don't let personal relationships you might develop with other people in the space change your commentary, your whatever. Don't let the fear of, oh, if I say this, I might lose some people in my audience. Don't let that affect you. Anytime you get those thoughts, you just have to check yourself and be like, fuck it. I don't care if, like in Kyle Clinton, I don't care if Jan Huber and Anna Casberry don't talk to me. What they did was fucked up, and I'm gonna say something about it. Or if like you're afraid of losing some subscribers if you cover a story that's controversial, whatever. You're like, well, you can get some new ones. And I think that I don't want to trivialize it, because it is a real thing. And like I said, people do have financial responsibilities and want to be able to take care of themselves. But I think that there needs to be some level of isolation. And I don't want to just act like, oh, it's just an attitude thing. And if you just say, I don't care, then all the problems solved. Like those pressures would still be there. But the way I've like over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, I've kind of had like a different approach to how to keep yourself. And I don't want to say isolated as in like, because you all know me, I'm just like shitty at like keep communicating with people in general, like personally. But like I don't want to say like isolate yourself as in like don't talk to anybody, but keep yourself grounded. And I think a good way for hosts to do that in new media is if they were more financially independent. And because if I'll use myself as an example, when I was in high school, I learned how to do web design, and it's not my favorite thing in the world to do. I'm pretty good at it, but I guess it's not my favorite thing in the world to do. But I've had those thoughts crossing my mind sometimes, like, oh, this is a controversial story or whatever. But if you have the and I've just started, like I'm trying to like do web design and make money doing that on the side. But when you have like your own thing going on, I don't want to say you don't care about the repercussions to your channel or whatever, but it seems less significant. If you have some type of skill or whatever you do, you bake, or you like sell food or whatever on the side, or you make crafts or whatever on the side. If you have that and it's enough to keep you alive, then you really would be more inclined to go balls to the wall and say, fuck YouTube censorship. If they want to demonetize me, let them demonetize me, because I'll still be able to eat at the end of the day. And like for me, somebody I think is like a good model of this, both in terms of like trying to separate from other people in like peers in the profession and also financially is like Jimmy Dore, because he's a comedian in his own right and he has his own thing, and he will never, no matter what happens to his channel, he's never going to starve. So he will come out and say whatever the fuck he wants, whatever he feels like, because YouTube demonetized the channel, he'd be fine. If they deleted a channel, a video, he'll be fine. If some of his audience doesn't like what he says, unsubscribes or cancels Patreon or whatever, he'll be fine. And I do think that that kind of independence, it gives people more freedom. And this isn't me say like shitting on the audience funding. I love that idea of being funded.
Are you telling us to go get a job?
Definitely not. Definitely not. I love the idea of being supported by your audience, but for me, it's become a even bigger risk the more the censorship is ramping up and things like. My channel hasn't been monetized since like last August, so like the more like it's scary, and the more I put into the channel, it just scares the shit out of me that one day I could wake up and the shit would be gone. Mm-hmm. And I don't want that to scare me so much that it affects the content that I make. That's why I do, for me personally, and it might not be for everybody, but for me personally, I do think it's helpful to try to have be able to support yourself outside of that, because you just come out and say whatever the fuck you have on your mind and not really have to worry about the repercussions.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I think either way, it's easier said than done, but you should always stand your ground and not give a fuck what people who are trying to back you down have to say. And you're right, Dontell, it is easier if you have something that's bringing in the money, other than,
and don't let me be clear, like this is a full-time job. Being a new media host, it's like 6 jobs. You have to be a producer, researcher, editor. You have to schedule, like you guys schedule interviews and different events and things like that. You have to do like the technical issues. Like it is not just a full-time job, it is multiple full-time jobs to host a new media show. But like I said, I do think that people's dependence on their show makes, especially once you get to a certain level, it makes them soft and it makes them risk adverse and wanting to ride the fence more and avoid confrontation and things like that.
Well, yeah, they want to appeal to the broadest base, like I said, because then they get more subscriptions, they get more Patreons, they make more money, and it just becomes like this cycle of self-censoring so that you can continue to, grow your channel and stuff. And listen, I get the appeal of that, and I get like wanting to be successful and wanting to make a lot of money and all of this stuff, but it's really just counterproductive to what independent media is supposed to be about.
Well, it's like it's the same as if you're going into music because you want to make money, or you're going to start painting because you want to make money, or writing. If that's the case, then you probably shouldn't do it.
Right.
In fact, I would say you definitely shouldn't do it, because to do anything for money that's the wrong reason. But especially when it comes to what we're trying to do with getting the truth out there about what's happening in the world and how it's destroying people's lives in the millions, in the billions, what American empire is doing. Yeah, it would be nice to monetize that as much as possible, but it's much more important to me, and I think Misty would agree with this, that we get what's really happening out there and not pull any punches with that, because as we see, what that does is just feed into the narrative we've been talking about, this regime change, imperialist narrative that we've been talking about. And I'm lucky where I have a job where I do have money coming in, and I get to work from home. So I'm not complaining, and I'm not saying that I'm not lucky. And I definitely understand where you're coming from with that, Dontell, but I just think that what we're dealing with is it's too important, it's too critical to not just our welfare and our humanity, but all of humanity. And you can't come at that half-assed. Like, you've got to go all in. And
that's definitely a good counterpoint. That is definitely a good counterpoint. Because me myself, it's hard for me to even do when I'm focusing on my show. It's hard for me to do anything else. Like, I've a couple of weeks ago, I was trying to work like at a restaurant part-time on the weekends. That shit was killing me, because like I spend hours and hours and hours researching and then recording and editing and all the stuff with the show, and then the days like on the weekend I'm doing a whole other job. So it's not easy, and I don't, and it affected my channel, and I'll admit that there was a drop in the amount of content that I was creating, because you have to be able to devote a certain amount of time to it. So that is a definitely a good counterpoint. But like I said, from my own personal experience, I'm not lucky enough yet to where even like if I make a bunch of content on my show, it's not enough money to survive on. So that's why I'm trying to like, I'd get it anywhere I can. If I could try to like get the part-time job, if I could spend a couple hours making a website or whatever, like I try to do that. But like you said, it is, all of that is it takes away from the work that anybody should be doing on this show. And it is unnecessary. And of course, I would 100% prefer a world where I could just devote all my time to the show and do nothing else. And because that's my passion, and that's what I like to do. And I think that's what I'm most productive at. So like you said, it is a something that takes a lot of time for the reasons that we talked about already.
Yeah. And it is possible to do it and to be, to make it your, I mean, a great example is Convo Couch. I mean, this is their job. They make their money off of doing it, but they don't self-censor. They don't back down from their position. So I think it's possible to do it. I just think it's difficult, because I think a lot of people are in it for the wrong reasons. I think if you're in it for the right reasons and you're in it to tell the truth, because listen, I mean, Jesse and I have never monetized our channel on YouTube. Yes, we're on Rockfin, so we get, very meager tips and stuff here and there. But we've never monetized our channel, because both of us agreed very early on that that's not why we were in this. But that's not to say that people shouldn't be compensated for your work. Like you said, this is a really hard thing to do. There's a lot of research and a lot of planning and scheduling and all of the stuff that goes into it. And so I'm not at all opposed. Like when people call like podcasters or YouTubers grifters, like that's ridiculous. You should be compensated for your work. I don't think that that's a controversial thing to say. So I just think that you have to be very mindful of keeping yourself in check. Like you said earlier, Dontell, you just have to make sure that you keep yourself centered and grounded and keep mindful of why you're in it, and stay true to that, because it is very easy to get distracted by the trappings of getting more Patreons or getting more subscriptions or getting more clicks or whatever, and it becomes this just self-fulfilling prophecy where you just keep chasing the dragon, so to say, and and then you just start losing yourself. And I think if you're able to like keep yourself in check, it is possible to have viewer funded shows and all of that stuff. Convo Couch is great at it. Nico does a great job at it. Like you said, Jimmy Dore's really good at it. And so yeah, I think it's possible to do that. I just think it's difficult once you get to a certain level.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah,
we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen with The Intercept and Democracy Now!, which are arguably larger, independent, if you want to call them that, outlets. They've just
lost their way.
Yeah, they've just become so diluted and pointless to even engage with at this point. And the fact that they still consider themselves adversarial is laughable. They should be laughed out of the room for that.
Yes.
And the fall of Democracy Now!, boy, that one
hurts. That hurts.
I used to watch literally every single Democracy Now! Video that they posted every day of the week.
Amy Goodman broke my fucking heart. I'm not even kidding.
I haven't watched it in like a year.
I watch clips every now and again because they do cover Julian Assange occasionally, and like they had Jen Robinson on to talk about the Siggy stuff, which I appreciate. They still do some good stuff.
They're good on Palestine too.
Yeah, I mean they still do some good stuff. That's I'm not discrediting everything that they do. Obviously, you know they can't be all bad, right?
Actually, let me clarify real quick. The reason why because I was so trustful of Amy Goodman and Democracy Now! That there was this one issue, this like the Uyghur thing. There was a couple different things when I see they would bring on guests and they would kind of like on Syria or like on certain issues, the guests or Russiagate, like they were kind of repeating mainstream.
They had Adrian Zenz on.
And so,
multiple times.
But most of the time I was able to catch it. But there was this issue or this instance with the Uyghur issue in China. And they did some videos on it. I watched the videos. I did my own, like I looked into it. And it was a compelling argument that was made. And it was for me. I'm still on this issue. I'm not sure what to make of it, but I did kind of like take them at their word, and I wasn't as critical as I should have been. And that for me personally, it just turned me off, and it made me like kind of take a step back and it like until I could just like, I don't know, it just made me take a step back because it like irked me personally, because I ended up doing a video about, and this is going off another thing, I ended up doing a video about an appearance Aaron Mate made on a show, and he talked about the Uyghur. He was asked about it, and he was saying, you know, like, I don't want to comment on it, and there's no evidence for it or whatever like that. And it did kind of rub me the wrong way, because I was like, well, did you not see the Democracy Now! Videos? And did you not, like, there were also reports about their own laws that the Chinese government that were making that were kind of discriminatory, and about like the education camps or whatever that. So like all of that stuff was confusing to me, but the way that Amy Goodman and Democracy Now! Presented it, it was very much like it was definitive and, you know, beyond a reason to doubt. And I did kind of buy into that. Now I'm more skeptical, and I'm open to hearing an argument on either side. But I think there were some concerning things. I just don't like the way. I'm just mad that I got took for a ride.
Yeah. No, but
we all do at some point.
It happens to everybody. I try to tell people, like, nobody's immune to that. Like, I mean, that's why it's, for example, I had the same issue with Chelsea Manning when Chelsea Manning did the interview with Ryan Grimm and Ken Klippenstein, where she kind of threw Julian Assange under the bus. And, you know, I was super pissed off at myself because I was holding back and I wasn't going to say anything about it because she's Chelsea fucking Manning. And I like admire and respect her. And I hate the word hero, but if there's ever going to be somebody called a hero, it should be somebody like a Chelsea Manning or a Daniel Ellsberg or Edward Snowden. You know what I mean? Somebody who took great personal risk to expose, you know, unbelievable crimes. And so I was super pissed off at myself because I was holding back because of who she is. And I advocate for the exact opposite of that all the time. I'm constantly telling people that you should be holding, like in particular, your favorites accountable constantly. You should always be checking them. And, you know, especially in politics and stuff like that, like you have to side eye everybody. And I was super mad at myself because it just made me a giant hypocrite. But nobody's immune to that. Like everybody has their blind spots, and everybody has, I mean, Amy Goodman, I trusted Amy Goodman almost implicitly. I don't trust anybody implicitly, but she's been great. I mean, I love her. And then, you know, just over the past, I don't know, 5 years or so, there's just been like this steady decline, and it's just really depressing. But yeah, I mean, nobody's immune to that kind of like blind spot, or to, you know, be taken in by something, especially when it's somebody that you've trusted and have trusted for a long time. I mean, Amy Goodman's been solid for years and years and years.
Out of all the journalists in this country, especially, she trailblazed on as far as independent journalists and people, adversarial journalists. And I will always have enormous respect for it, but it's just like you said, the direction and like the slow decline or whatever it is. It's just
that doesn't
sad.
discount all of the work that she's done previously that has been great, or the great work that she still does. It's no different than me criticizing Chelsea.
As far as anti-imperialism, I don't think that there's been a show that's shaped my opinion more than Democracy Now. Nobody has exposed like the dirty wars in Latin America and South America, the of course the Iraq War, Afghanistan War, Yemen, and all those things. I can't think of a show that has done more to inform me on U.S. foreign policy than Democracy Now. So I will always give credit to Amy Goodman for that, and the archives, the Democracy Now archives. If you look at like the interviews that she's done with people like in Chile and in Guatemala, and just the amazing, like that's premier journalism. So like you said, it doesn't take away from the work that she's done in the past. I'm just a lot more skeptical now. And maybe you're right. They do some, like, once in a while I see like a decent video on the like on my YouTube feed, but you're right. Maybe I should start using them as a source sparingly again. But I'm just, that just made me take a step back, and I'm like, there's a bunch of other great anti-interventionist, anti-imperialist reporters and journalists. So I don't think I was like missing like that from my life after I stopped watching Democracy Now, but they do provide like great.
They're on some things. I mean, seriously, on Julian Assange, they've been pretty solid. They've been some solid on, certain things. And I think any source really, you have to be, just very careful and mindful and objective, just, as much as you can. Again, nobody can be completely objective. Everybody's got their own biases and all that stuff. But I mean, just look at everything objectively, and always seek multiple sources. That's what I always tell people. Don't ever trust just one source. If you read a story, or if you watch a video on Democracy Now and they say something about something, you need to go find 4, 5, 6 other sources and get a bigger picture. And I am a big fan of seeking out people or sources that I wouldn't ordinarily agree with, and hear different perspectives, which people freak the fuck out about. That's actually something else I was going to talk to you about this, all of the hyperventilating over people who want to talk to people who don't agree with them all the time. But yeah, like seeking out sources of people that you don't, I follow people on Twitter I don't agree with. We really have nothing much in common at all. I mean, I've gone on like Reed Coverdale's show, who's a libertarian, and we disagree on a lot of things. And we talked for over an hour and found a lot of things that we actually agree on. And I think that that's incredibly productive, and it's very helpful in forming those bonds on issues that we can't agree with, because we're up against some incredibly powerful people. And like we've spoken about multiple times during this interview, it's going to take mass public pressure to get a lot of these things accomplished. If you want Medicare for all, you're going to have to be willing to have, open arms to anybody who's willing to be in that fight with us, because that's going to be a massive undertaking, going up against the pharmaceutical companies and the health insurance lobbies and all that stuff. We're going to need numbers for that. So I know we've been going for a really long time, but just briefly before we wrap up, what is your take on, the hyperventilating over wanting to reach out to people who maybe we don't ordinarily agree with on issues where we do find agreement?
I think it's bizarre to me, one, on a personal level, because whoever is doing that hyperventilating, don't you know people in your personal life that you like vehemently disagree with about politics? Like, so like, what's this idea? Like, oh, we're never allowed to talk to people that we disagree with politically. I think that's just like, on a personal level, it was very inconsistent and incoherent. So that never made sense to me.
It's laziness.
Yeah.
It really boils down to
like
laziness.
A strategy. Like you said, like sometimes you can, first of all, you need other people that you disagree with. If you're planning on getting Medicare for all by only getting activists who agree with you on a living wage, ending the wars, and Julian Assange, and the rent and mortgage cancellation, they have to agree with you on all those things before you invite them to a Medicare for all rally. Like, that makes no sense. And you are just like, you're excluding people who can agree with you and can be of use to you on this specific issue in a specific moment. So that doesn't make any sense. But like you said, also, sometimes you talk to somebody and they give you, somebody you disagree with, and they give you a perspective that you weren't going to get anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, like, what is the downside is I guess what I'm saying. Like, I don't see the downside. You can get somebody, maybe you can convince somebody why you're right on those issues that you disagree with. You can get somebody out on the street with you. You can maybe come up with some different ideas for like direct action or whatever. Like, there's all these upsides, and what's the downside? Platforming somebody? Like, what the fuck does that even, like?
I hate that argument so much. Listen, I'm a grown ass adult and I will talk to whoever the fuck I want to. And I don't care if you don't like it. You don't have to watch my show. The whole like, oh, she platformed somebody that I don't like. I don't care. I really do not care. It drives me fucking crazy.
Yeah,
and especially, go ahead.
I was just going to say, on top of that, a lot of the people who will come at you for having somebody on that whom they dislike, if you try to engage with them and ask, well, did you watch the show? I can't tell you how many times I've gotten the response, no, I wouldn't waste my time watching it. Well, how can you criticize it? How can you even say anything to me about it if you haven't even watched it? It's,
for all you know, they could have just had an epiphany in the middle of the video and said, you know what, maybe you're right about everything.
Well, that's but people who get mad at me for talking to Magnus, have you ever watched an interview with Magnus? Because people are like, oh, he's a fascist. Have you ever listened to Magnus? He's not a fucking fascist. He's a former environmental activist. He's anti-racist. He's anti-imperialist. He's anti-war. He's pro-LGBTQ. He's part of that community.
Yeah, but he has guns. He has guns.
He's a hippie who likes guns, essentially. I mean, that's basically what it amounts to. He's kind of an anarchist, but he's kind of a hippie who just likes guns, and that's it. And dude is in the streets constantly. Like, he's all the time, you know, in the streets fighting for the things that these people claim to care about. But he's a fascist, and that doesn't make any sense. I disagree with Magnus on plenty. There are plenty of things that Magnus and I do not agree with, but he's not a fucking fascist. He's not an enemy of mine in any way, shape, or form. My enemy wears a $5,000 suit and sits in a boardroom. Magnus is not my enemy. And the people that hyperventilate over this stuff it's so self-defeating. I am convinced that these people do not care about getting anything done. They just want to sit in their safe space. They want to feel smugly superior. They want to sit in their safe space, and they want this tiny little club. They don't want to get anything done, because y'all, you can't get anything done if you like isolate yourself into this tiny little echo chamber. I mean, do they like, I'm just like, do they have like a questionnaire where you have to fill out this questionnaire before they'll even engage with you? Like, do you suffer from wrongthink on any of these issues? And if you do,
you have
then
to fill out a
can't talk.
scantron. You have to fill out a
That's what I'm saying. Like, fill in the little bubbles, you know what I mean? So that you can be approved. And it's the most self-defeating thing I've ever seen in my life. These are issues that I actually fucking care about. I want to get things done. And I'm willing to work with anybody. I don't give a shit. I especially on like Julian Assange, I don't care if it's Tucker Carlson. I don't care. If I can go on Tucker Carlson's show, which, I mean, obviously Andrew's been on Tucker Carlson though. Shout out to Andrew. But if I could go on Tucker Carlson's show and talk to 5 to 6 million people about Julian Assange, yeah, I'm gonna fucking do that. You would be stupid to not do that. That doesn't mean I agree with. And my favorite thing too is when people act like if you have a conversation with somebody, then that means that you co-sign everything they've ever said or ever done or believe in, and that their beliefs are now transposed onto you, and that's who you are now. No, I can talk to whoever I want to, and I'm solid enough in my own beliefs, and I know who I am and what I stand for, that they're not going to change me in a conversation. Like people who are worried about, oh, well, these infiltrators are going to come in and they're going to, turn us all into alt-righters. No, I know who the fuck I am. You're not going to change my opinion on these things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and doesn't it seem more fascist to eliminate certain people from the conversation than to actually talk to them?
Yes.
Even if you disagree with them on a number of points? To me, it seems more in line with fascism to exclude those people from the dialogue than it does to actually talk to them.
And extrapolate that to like, okay, so nobody, so people who host podcasts or shows, whatever, they're not allowed to talk to people that you disagree with. So nobody's allowed to talk to them? So nobody should hire them now? Or like, what's it that if you want healthcare, and do you only want healthcare for people you agree with? Like,
right?
What the fuck is
That's
like?
my
Where do you draw the line?
Fight for somebody I don't know. Terms and conditions may apply. And my favorite thing is that there's an incredible double standard too. These are people, generally the people who come at me are people who voted for Joe Biden. You voted for a fucking fascist. You voted for a white supremacist. I didn't vote for him. These are people who stand TYT. Anna Kasparian gave a knob-slobbing interview to Madeleine Albright, and you don't fault her for that. You don't like cancel her for talking to Madeleine Albright, who's a fucking fascist.
She's a war criminal.
She's a war criminal. Joe Biden's a war criminal. You voted for a war criminal, and yet you're mad at me for talking to Magnus? Like, you need to get a grip on yourself. It's completely ridiculous. It's the most unbelievably self-defeating thing. Again, like I said, my neighbors and some boogaloo boy who wears Hawaiian shirts and carries a gun is not my enemy. My enemy are the people who are in charge. This whole idea that we have the luxury of isolating ourselves into these little subgroups while the powers that be rape, pillage, and plunder and kill us all. Jesus Christ, are you kidding? People are dying, and y'all want to fight about you can't talk to libertarians because they suffer from wrong things on economic policy.
A couple of things. So those are the same people who also talk about, you guys, all the infighting, and you talking whenever we talk about serious shit, the number one news show on the planet is smearing anti-war journalists on a regular. Oh, look at the infighting. Oh, you guys can't focus on the issues. But the same people, they're gonna bitch and moan if you talk to somebody that they disagree with. I mean, honestly, I have a hard time even taking these people seriously because, like I said, it logically and there's no consistency there. Because if you want to tell me that you don't have anybody in your personal life that is opposite of you ideologically, I don't believe that. So you're just gonna make your own carve out your own exception for your own personal life, and then just browbeat other people who are doing the same shit on their show. So that makes no sense. And then also, obviously, I think some of it is just bad faith actors who they're just looking for anything to bitch and moan about. Yes. And so they're just gonna find they can't make an objection to the content. So, because if they watch it, like you said, if you watch it, you'd see that we were having a conversation on my terms on the issues, and I'm advocating for the issues that I agree with. If you watch that, you couldn't disagree with any of that. So you're just gonna find something else to bitch and moan about. Oh, look at the person that you're talking to.
Right. It always devolves to personality.
I find it hard to take these people serious.
Yeah, it always devolves to personality and ad hominem attacks. So Magnus is the perfect example. We had him on the show a while back. I don't know, Misty, if you caught any flack for that. I didn't really catch any, but
all the time. Still to this day, the fucking time.
But when people come at you for that, the criticism about Magnus is about him as a person and not what he stands for. The people
it's usually not even him as a person, it's the person they've invented in their mind.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And they don't even take the first step toward looking at what he stands for politically, what his policies are, for lack of a better word. And it's, I think that filters down from this cult of personality nonsense that we see with politicians like AOC. It becomes just about the personality, because it's so much easier to go after that than to take a step back and say, well, what does this person think about these things, and what are they doing to activate for those things? And that's harder work to do. It's a lot easier to just pillory somebody because they wear a Hawaiian shirt or they carry a gun, or just because you can't pin them down, and that upsets you. And that's a big problem. And I think that's what TYT has devolved to. It's personality attacks. When Anna Kasparian had her temper tantrum / seizure and said, who cares about Aaron Mate? Fuck you, Aaron Mate, and threw up the middle finger. I mean, that seemed like there was something personal there, or some kind of
100%.
jealousy. It had nothing to do with the work that Aaron's done, which, as Misty said before, has been excellent and spot on with Russiagate and Syria. So yeah, but that's part of the culture we live in now, the larger culture too. It's about personality. It's about surfaces. It's the postmodern condition, if you will. And while we're all concentrating on that, Joe Biden is illegally bombing Syria. Again, funneling weapons to Ukrainian neo-Nazis,
torturing Julian Assange
to death, greenlighting the genocide that's been going on for almost half a decade in Yemen. So just going back to what we were talking about with talking to people we disagree with, I think that's, we need to keep doing that and ignore and not get trapped in the surface bullshit.
And you know what I will say about talking to people we disagree with? I think we should be talking to more right wingers because they are, how would I say this? When it comes to fighting for the shit that they care about, they're going to go balls to the wall.
Yes.
And protest, they'll do it. Organized direct action, they'll do it. And actual like a organized campaign between the anybody from the trolls on Twitter to the most prominent figures that they have in media and the politicians, they're all online, like on the same page when it comes to the shit that they want to do. So I think that's a productive conversation to have with people on the right. Like they're or how they organize and just how they organize for the shit that they care about. And that's not to say, oh, let's help them organize, but let's do some of their strategy because they get the shit that they want and we don't.
No, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And not only that, I think that so people seem to, there's a lot of people who seem to think that if you're to the right of like maybe Bernie Sanders, then you're an irredeemable racist. And that's like a very pervasive thought process. Like, I mean, we've had people say that, like all 75 million or 70 million Trump voters are all just irredeemable racists. That's fucking ridiculous. There's a lot of, or like they'll say that they'll tell me that like, I want to work with Nazis because I talked to Magnus. That's ridiculous. There's a whole lot of space in between Bernie Sanders and actual fucking Nazis. There's a lot of people in there who actually agree with us on a lot of things. I mean, 54% of Republicans want Medicare for all. They want it in the wars. They want to protect civil liberties and free speech and free press and all of that stuff. So there's stuff that we do agree on. And are there casual racists amongst that group? Absolutely. Of course there are. There are racists on the left, you guys. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yes.
There are a lot of racists on the left. And so, using that as like a disqualifier.
The so-called president
right?
of the Democratic Party is a fucking racist, and
he's Captain Crime Bill.
Racist.
Yeah, he's Captain Crime Bill. Y'all voted for him, but I'm an asshole for wanting to talk to somebody who's to the right of me. That's so ridiculous, and it is incredibly self-defeating because again, those people, those millions and millions of people, agree with us on some stuff, and they've just been propagandized to be mad at the wrong things and the wrong people, and that's it. They're victims of propaganda. They're just victims of different propaganda, are there people amongst them who cannot be reached and who are absolutely, just not worth your time and effort? Of course. But to me, and it especially pisses me off with white people because it is the height of white privilege to just like brush your hands and be like, nope, I'm not dealing with those people because they're racist. Well, that's our problem. Like that's, as a white person, it's my job to use my privilege to be able to go into white spaces where there may be racist ideology and try to combat that and try to, change people's minds. And, it's mind-boggling to me that white people are just like, yeah, I'm not dealing with that. That's not my problem. It is your fucking problem. You should be dealing with that if you can.
There's no such thing as a non-racist. Everybody has some form of racism that's been hammered into us just from growing into the people we are now as adults. The point is to be an anti-racist and to always fight against it. That's why it was so ludicrous every time Trump said, I am the least racist person in the world, least racist person you've ever met. That doesn't make any sense. We all have our biases. And I'm not saying that I look at somebody who's Black or somebody who's Asian and, I have racist thoughts, but for somebody to say that they're completely non-racist, that's bullshit. The point is, like I said,
we've been propagandized.
That's a good point about the
fight against it.
I'm on like the racist propaganda that everybody in this country, we live in a racist country that's been racist from its inception, and everything from all the institutions, the media, whatever, they've all been rigged in benefit of the most powerful people who are
White
usually
people.
powerful white people.
Yeah.
So it advances their own narrative. So we've all had to live with that, and it's like a good example I can give for that, and about how everybody is subject to that. I know Black people who don't trust other Black people, who wouldn't hire another Black person or whatever, because like they the stereotypes about them being lazy or whatever, they're going to steal food. Like even Black people would believe some of that shit. So like that is a good point about how it's in everybody has some bias and some ideas, like, but it's important to be anti-racist and to check yourself. And like how Missy said, if you have other white people in your space who have those views,
challenge them.
They're not going to say that shit to me. They'll say that shit to you.
Yeah.
So
and it
you
happens.
check them
and I
on
challenge it every time. And that's my job. Like, I mean, that sounds really dumb. That's my job. But to me, if I'm legit trying to be an ally, like a real, somebody who wants to help in that space, then that's my job. Like my duty is to like, call that out and challenge those people on those beliefs. And, it really pisses me off when white people are like, just refuse and think that they're above that. You're not fucking above that. Like you should be doing that. That should be something you should be actively trying to do every time that you come across it. And, just brushing it off like it's not your problem is just really, really like just garbage. It really is just garbage. I don't know how people expect, like how do you expect to change anybody or challenge anybody's opinion if you won't even talk to those people? Ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away. So like pretending that racists don't exist or that you're too good to deal with that doesn't help anything. It helps
Actually,
no
that's
one.
a very important contradiction. Like these are the same people who claim like they care about Black people and they want to fix racism. So how do you do that when you don't talk to the racists?
But you're not willing to do any of the work.
Yeah,
You're not willing to do any of the work to make that happen. Like you pretend to be an ally, you pretend to be somebody who wants to, challenge the institutional racism in this country and police brutality and all of those things, but you aren't willing to actually do any of the work that could potentially help move that along, because you can't just like sit over here and pretend it like you're too good to talk about it. But to me, these things are hashtags to them. It's like they just want to, they just want to do their little virtue signaling and pretend they care about these issues, but they don't actually want to do any of the fucking work. And I'm not down with those people. And again, like I get it. It's a difficult thing sometimes to talk to people that you don't agree with and be productive. I'm not always good at it. Like sometimes I lose my cool and I get, mad and angry and I yell, and that's not productive. But to just not even try, what are you doing? What good are you doing? You're not going to change anybody's mind. You're not going to challenge any of the systems or anything that's fucked up in this country if you're not even willing to like talk to people that don't agree with you. It's a really frustrating thing to me, and we're seeing it. I mean, and it's also kind of this gatekeeper thing, where you have to be a certain person or a certain, you know what I mean? And it's like they're doing it with the Medicare for All marches. Somebody was attacking Tara Reid because, oh well, what expertise does she have to speak at a Medicare for All rally? Well, she's fucking human and she believes in Medicare for All. Boom, she's qualified. I don't understand why she needs to present her CV to you and like give you her resume so that you can decide whether or not she's qualified to speak at a Medicare for All rally. That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just, stupid.
That is ridiculous.
It is really so stupid.
I mean, this goes to a larger discussion of class and gender, which we can obviously have another time, or hopefully have another time. But yeah, that's just preposterous that you have to be an expert to speak at a rally about something
that you care about, that would help people.
Yeah, and doesn't, I would think that if you're dealing with we all deal with the issue of healthcare every day. So I think that makes us experts enough. I don't know what else we need to have on our CV.
You don't need to be an expert to care about healthcare or any issue. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to, believe in it, want to fight for it. And that's it. That's all you need. That's it.
And it's not an issue. It's a necessity. It's a right. It's not a privilege. It's a right.
It's a literal matter of life and death.
If sickness is free, why isn't health free? Why do we have to pay to get out of sickness? But I know we're we're running long here, but
We are.
since we were talking earlier about
Oh, here he goes.
the
One
national
more
security
thing.
state and Trump, I just wanted to read this real quick, just a few lines from this New York Times report that just came out, titled "The Pentagon Cancels Its $10 Billion Jedi Cloud Computing Contract." The Defense Department said on Tuesday that it would not go forward with a lucrative cloud computing contract that had become the subject of a contentious legal battle amid claims of interference by the Trump administration. The Pentagon had warned Congress in January that it would walk away from the contract if a federal court agreed to consider whether former President Donald J. Trump interfered in a process that awarded the $10 billion contract to Microsoft over its tech rival, Amazon, saying that the question would result in lengthy litigation and untenable delays. The Defense Department said Tuesday in a news release that the contract for the Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, known as JEDI, quote, no longer meets its needs, unquote, but it would solicit bids from Amazon and Microsoft on future cloud computing contracts. So those are just the first 3 paragraphs, but this stuff keeps going while we get, well, not us, but a lot of people get distracted by the minuscule bullshit when you look at it relatively of the TYT stuff or the infighting we've been talking about. Those are distractions while this insane imperial military industrial complex shit is playing out, you know, and it's by design. It's meant to keep this machine going, and we're just in the way. We're human impediments.
Yeah, it's crazy how the war machine continues unabated, no matter what happens, no matter who's president, no matter who's in Congress. It continues no matter what. And the amount of money that they throw at it is just outrageous. Like the thing that the figure I will never get over is how it would cost $20 billion to eliminate homelessness in the United States. And at every turn, I see the Pentagon just throw in billions of dollars here, billions of dollars here, billions of dollars. They will give them extra $30 billion this year, another $10 billion next year, $700 billion budgets every year. $20 billion to eliminate homelessness. Can you imagine what that would do to the country? Like how that would change the country if nobody would ever have to worry about being homeless? And they choose not to do that. And that's another thing. It's a choice. They choose not to do those things. And instead, they actively choose to do genocide for profit and destroy the rest of the world with our foreign policy. So it's disgusting. And it shows you like this country, people think like this is like, it's really at its core, it's just like this big war machine and corporate profit machine. And then like tangentially, I guess they do the stuff that government's supposed to do. I guess they'll give you some food stamps once in a while or some Section 8 housing or whatever. But like the core of the government, it's just really to solidify corporatocracy and the war machine. That's basically what it is at this point.
Yes. 100%. And, you know, every little crumb that they throw you is just another distraction. It's another shiny thing for you to think that you're being represented and you're being taken care of. And they don't give a shit about you. Clearly, they do not give a shit about you. I don't think anything could have brought that into sharper relief than COVID and the response to COVID and the fact that you can't even get a $2,000 check in the middle of a pandemic. We can't even get a floor vote on Medicare for all in the middle of a pandemic. And I don't know if anything could make it more obvious that these, they don't work for you. None of them. Nope. Not even your fave. Nope. They don't work for you. They don't care about you. And we have to start organizing outside the system because that's our only chance at this point.
And like I said in the tweet last night, the March for Medicare for All is gonna be happening in a couple of weeks. So
I need to talk to you about that after we're done recording, just so you know. I need to talk to you about that. Don't like bounce out.
So like none of these politicians, they're not gonna fight for your healthcare unless you make them do it. Yeah. So right now, the only people organizing for Medicare for All are the Red Berets. So
and And shout out to them. They've been taking a lot of heat. They're getting shit on. It's fucking disgusting. Anybody who's shitting on, like on the ground activists who are trying to fight for healthcare, because, there's been some infiltration. There's always infiltration, you absolute douche canoes. There's always going to be infiltration on the left. It is going to happen, period, end of story. They dealt with it. It's a non-issue. And the fact that people are still dragging it out and making it a thing is it's so obvious that this is a disruption op. Like, it is so clear to me that this is just meant to discredit their efforts. And that's fucked up because they're the only ones organizing for Medicare for all right now. So if you actually support Medicare for all, shut the fuck up and volunteer. So yeah, hopefully, these marches will be a huge success though, because they've been putting a lot of work into it. So yeah, I want to thank you again for joining us, Dontel. Always a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, we could talk to you all day. We have
I
kind
know
of
I could talk to y'all all day.
Sorry, we do that a lot. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you and the channel so that everybody can check you out and subscribe and all that good stuff?
So you can find me Unapologetic on YouTube, or if you want to type in the whole URL, youtube.com/unapologetic, patreon.com/unapologetic and the number 0. The links to all my stuff are on my YouTube channel in the description box of my videos and the about page of the videos. You can find me on Twitter at unapologetic.yt. And yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Everybody should check out the show. He does great work, great coverage, really good commentary. So everybody check it out. Thanks for coming on. Thanks everybody for watching, and we will catch you next time.